outsourced to a panel of attorneys or referred to law enforcement agencies for investigation, and that consequence management has been partially implemented. Then under committee concerns, the committee is concerned that the matter regarding the leadership instability is recurring, as it was highlighted during the 2017-18 and 2018-19 financial years respectively. The committee is concerned that the entity attributed the reasons for not having proper and complete records that were not maintained as evidence to support the investigations into irregular expenditure to limited budget and resistant to initiate investigations. The proposed recommendations, the first one is that the entity must intensify performance and consequence management processes to eliminate findings on irregular expenditure and must submit its plan detailing its adherence and compliance to the requirements of all applicable legislation to ensure that effective measures are implemented by 30 November 2021 and every quarter continuing up until finalization thereof. The second proposed recommendation is that the entity must submit its plan detailing its adherence and compliance to the requirements of all applicable legislation to ensure that effective measures are implemented by 30 November 2021 and every quarter continuing up until the end of June 2022. Then finding number 9, it's on leadership, financial and performance management. The AG reported that some senior management did not always implement proper record keeping in a timely manner to ensure that complete, relevant, and accurate information was accessible and available to support performance and financial reporting. The AG also reported that senior management did not adequately review and monitor compliance with applicable laws and regulations. The committee noted that the entity has put in place the following measures to improve its internal control environment. Number 1 is that it has approved the organizational policies as in the process of resolving outstanding internal and external audit findings, including implementation of the risk mitigations. And secondly, capacitation of the executive and other critical position has commenced. They are in the processes of finalizing consequence management matters. Then lastly, it's internal and external assurance of the annual financial statements and annual performance report and annual report. The proposed recommendation is that the entity must submit its audit action plan indicating each area of finding by the AG in the 2019-20 financial year. Plans by the entity to address the area of findings and timeframes for implementation. This must include a progress report of implementation as at 30 November 2021, which must be reported every quarter up until June 2022. Then on finding number 10, which is investigation, the AG reported that the investigations into allegation of irregularities in the township modernization and revitalization program and labor-related issues was commissioned by the executive authority, and the investigation report was issued to the executive authority on the 15th of November 2017. The AG also reported that the accounting authority was presented with the investigation report during the year under review, and as at the date of this report, the accounting authority had not implemented the recommendations of the investigation. The committee noted that there were 11 main recommendations made in the investigation report, which were partly completed and reported to the Portfolio Committee on Economic Development, Environment, Agriculture, and Rural Development. Furthermore, there were further 11 actions recommended for board, which are partly addressed as well. The committee noted that the reason for the delay is due to the pending approval for the implementation of the recommendations by the board. The proposed recommendation is that the entity must provide the committee with a progress report detailing the status of the implementation of recommendations of the investigations by 30 November 2021 and every quarter continuing up until finalization thereof. Then number 5, it's a standard item which is on reporting period. It is also self-explanatory. Then number 6 is the conclusion. The number 7 is the acknowledgement rather. Then number 8 is the adoption of the report. That in terms of Standing Rule 117, subsection 2C, read together with 164, the committee will present to the House about this report for consideration and adoption. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Simon, for that report on the responses by the Gauteng Enterprise Propeller to the delayed report. I'm not sure if honourable members have got comments or questions to make. This is now going to be our report when adopted. So any comments or questions or additions? I'm not sure if there'll be questions because it's supposed to be our report. You can only enhance it. So I'm not sure if there are any comments or questions.
No, thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Let me then, but just to say that one thing that we must include in that report, Simon, is the fact that I think they did explain the reasons why the report was delayed. If we can find those reasons, let's include them so that it's clear that we have considered their reasons for the delay in the report. Can somebody move for the adoption of that report as a committee report that will be tabled in the House?
Thank you, Chair. I'll move for the adoption of the report.
Honorable Randall moves. Any seconder? Honorable members, any seconder? The problem is that if you don't have a seconder, it means this report is not adopted.
Yeah, no, I'm seconding. I was checking if ever we have other members.
Yeah.
Like you indicated, it's seconded.
Yes. I'm worried. I think I should be able to. I'm not sure why members are doing this, but it is a matter that we have to deal with. Thank you very much. The report is duly adopted. We will be tabling the report at the sitting. I think it's scheduled for next week or week after next. We will table the report. Now, let me take this opportunity to welcome our viewers or followers of this meeting on YouTube and also on Facebook. We want to apologize for the technical glitch that happened earlier. There was a problem with connectivity. I'm told it's now sorted and the two platforms are now live. And also I want to indicate that the presentation by the Premier by the Premier's office on the Forensic Investigation Unit is now rescheduled. It will take place in about an hour's time. We are in communication with the Premier. As soon as the matter they are dealing with has been resolved, they'll join us. For now, the indication is that that item will be dealt with at 11 o'clock. If there are any changes, I'll let you know, honorable members. So the presentation by the Office of the Premier is now scheduled for 11 o'clock. Let us move on to the next item on our agenda. The next item, Simon, if I'm correct, it's the presentation of our resolution tracking report. Am I correct? Okay, so the next presentation is on the resolution tracking report, just to indicate that this is based on the audit report audit reports of 2019-2020 after the committee had considered all the reports and made its recommendations to the House in March this year. The House adopted the recommendations and they became the resolutions of the House. As a result, those were sent to all the members or all the departments to respond to them. They've responded to us. We are now getting our own analysis on those annual reports or on those resolutions. The first one I'm going to deal with is the questions we asked to all the resolutions that relate to the Cradle of Humankind trading entity. Over to you. I'm not sure if it's Lerato or Bongi who's going to deal with that.
Good morning, Chair and honorable members and colleagues. I'll be dealing with the presentation for Cradle of Humankind. Thank you for flighting, Simon. So I'll go straight into the summary. The summary of the resolution, the House resolutions for Cradle of Humankind. The entity had 2 House resolutions emanating from the 2019-20 annual report, of which it is suggested that one should remain open while the other one may be closed. The first audit finding, or rather the first House resolution, stems from the audit finding compliance with legislation, annual financial statements. The content of the House resolution states that the entity must provide the committee with a progress report detailing the effectiveness of measures put in place to address findings related to the preparation of the annual financial statements by the 31st of July 2021 and every quarter continuing up until the end of June 2022. The entity responded, and the researcher's analysis is that the resolution has been adequately responded to by the entity in that a detailed progress report has been submitted to the committee, and the annexures are attached for ease of reference for the members. And that the research recommendation or position in this regard is that it is recommended that the resolution be closed. And then the second House resolution stems from the audit finding reporting period. The content of the House resolution is that the entity must submit its audit action plans indicating each area of findings by the AGSA in the 2019-20 financial year, plans by the entity to address the areas of findings and timeframes for implementation. This must include a progress report of implementation as at the 31st of March 2021, which must be reported every quarter until the 30th of October 2021. The entity responded, and the researcher's analysis is that the question has been adequate, or rather the resolution has been adequately responded to by the entity, and that a detailed progress report has been submitted to the committee. The entity stated that 80% of the action plans have been implemented, while 20% are still in progress, and there are annexures to that regard that are attached for members' ease of reference. And the researcher's recommendation or position is that it is recommended that the resolution remain open until the full implementation of all audit action plans. And those are the only 2 resolutions relating to Cradle of Humankind. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Lerato. Any comments from members?
None, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. I assume that
Yeah, it's okay. I second.
Thank you. The research report is noted. One resolution is closed, the other one will remain open. Obviously, the resolutions that are open, we will have to follow them up when we consider the annual reports for the financial year, which ended 31st of March this year. As we move to the next item, honorable members, there's something I wanted to raise in the earlier report. I'm sorry that I'm doing this to you. I wanted to ask that maybe we must change the dates of submission of responses to our follow-up matters in the report on JEP, to make it to be end of October instead of end of November. The reason will be that we must be able to also align their responses to our analysis of the new financial year's report, which we are going to be considering in October, November. So, honourable members, I'm sorry to do this. In others, I'm taking you back to the item that has already been closed, but it's a matter that I've just remembered now. I don't know if members would be okay with it, so that we change just the date of when we want them to respond. Rather than say end of November, we say by the end of October.
It's okay with me, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Simon, I think you'll take note. Thank you, Member Randall. I think we'll take note of that, Simon. The next report we are considering, it's the analysis of House resolutions. Remember on the audit report of the Gauteng Growth and Development Agency, the GGDA. Over to you, Lerato.
Thank you, Chair. I'll go straight to the summary again. As it relates to the House resolutions emanating from the GGDA, which is the Gauteng Growth Development Agency, the annual report process, there was a total of 6 House resolutions, of which 2 are proposed to remain open, and while the other 4 are proposed for closure. The first resolution stems from the audit finding of emphasis of matter regarding to restatement of corresponding figures. The resolution states that the entity must implement adequate processes to curb restatements of corresponding figures and provide the committee with a progress report detailing the effectiveness of the process every quarter, effective from the 31st of July and every quarter continuing up until the end of June 2022. The entity provided a response, and the researcher's analysis is that the resolution has been adequately responded to by the entity. In its response, the entity indicated that its finance team received GRAP training in March 2021. Furthermore, an external accounting firm which has been appointed to assist with the application appointed to assist with the application of complex accounting matters. The research recommendation is that the committee notes the response to the resolution, and it is recommended that the resolution be closed. The next resolution stems from the audit finding significant uncertainties. The House resolution states that the entity must provide the committee with a progress report detailing the status of the lawsuits reported for the period 31st March 2020 by the 31st of July 2021 and every quarter continuing up until the finalization thereof. The entity responded, and the researcher's analysis in this regard is that the entity responded adequately to the resolution by providing a very lengthy litigation report. The researcher's recommendation or position in this regard is that, noting that the committee has requested the entity to provide progress of the matters until finalization of them all, it is recommended that the resolution remain open until the ongoing litigation matters are finalized. In the annexures, there are it is indicated that there are matters that are still ongoing. So that is where that recommendation stems from. And then the next audit finding also comes from significant uncertainties. The content of the House resolution is that the entity must investigate alternative measures to reduce the occurrence of lawsuits and submit the plan to the committee by the 31st of July 2021. The entity responded, and then the researcher's analysis in this regard is that the resolution has been adequately responded to in the attached report. The report details the introduction of the litigation management strategy. So there is an introduction of a strategy to deal with the occurrence of lawsuits. And the researcher's recommendation in this regard is that the committee notes the adequate response by the entity and thus closure is recommended. The next audit finding stems from procurement and contract management. The content of the House resolution is that the entity must provide the committee with a progress report detailing whether additional training has been offered to all SCM officials on the principles of Treasury Regulation 16A6.6 by the 31st of July 2021 and every quarter continuing up until the finalization thereof. The entity also responded to this, and the researcher's analysis in this regard is that the resolution was responded to adequately, as the entity confirmed that SCM officials, including senior managers who serve on bid committee, have received PFMA training in March 2021. The research recommendation or position is that the resolution was adequately responded to, and it is recommended that it be closed. The next House resolution states that the entity must provide the committee with a progress report detailing the status of the proposed investigation to determine the element of financial misconduct by the 31st of July 2021 and continuing up until the finalization thereof. The researcher's analysis in this regard is that the resolution has been adequately responded to by the entity, as it indicated that the investigation has been concluded and employees who were found to be responsible for irregular expenditure have been dealt with accordingly. The researcher's recommendation and position in this regard is that the committee notes the adequate response and it is recommended to be closed. The next audit finding is reporting period. The House resolution states that the entity must submit its audit action plans indicating each area of finding by the AGSA in the 2019-20 financial year, plans by the entity to address the area of findings and timeframes for implementation. This must include a progress report of implementation as at the 31st of March 2021, which must be reported every quarter until the 31st of October 2021. And the entity responded with a table that I'll take as read, and it goes all the way down to page 8. And the researcher's analysis then is that the resolution has been adequately responded to by the entity, and much of the audit action plans are still in progress as indicated in the table above. The research recommendation or position is that the committee notes the response by the entity, and it is recommended that the resolution remain open until the end of October 2021, as much of the action plans have not been fully implemented. And that would be the last House resolution as it relates to GGDA. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Lerato, for that. Any comments from members?
None, thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. There are no comments, so it means the report is noted and the resolutions will be treated as such. Like we've said, some of the issues will also follow up when you consider the annual reports for the financial year that ended 31st of March this year. The next report, Simon. The next one we are considering is the, they've removed it again. Please fly it, Simon.
We agree, Chair, or we can hear you. Oh yeah, that's fine.
Oh yeah, sure. The next one is the one for Gauteng Department of Education. Their responses to our resolutions that were taken based on their annual report of the 2019-2020 financial year. Over to you, Lerato.
Thank you, Chair. As indicated, it is the House resolutions on the Department of Education. I will also start with the summary. The summary is that as it relates to the House resolutions emanating from the 2019-20 annual report, there was a total of 7 House resolutions, wherein 3 are proposed to remain open, while 4 are proposed for closure. The first House resolution stems from the audit finding emphasis of matter, material uncertainty. The content of the House resolution is that the department must provide the committee with a progress report on the resolution of lawsuits, including inactive case reported for the period 31st March 2020 by the 31st of July 2021, and every quarter continuing up until finalization thereof. The department responded, and the researcher's analysis is that the resolution has been adequately responded to. The department indicated that out of 243 lawsuits, 16 matters were finalized, thus resulting in 227 cases that have not been finalized. The department further highlighted that 220 of the 227, 73 cases were inactive, while 154 cases were active. The research recommendation or position is that the committee notes the response. The committee may ask the department to share the details of the 227 cases, including the age analysis thereof, so as to elaborate why the cases are yet to be resolved. It is recommended that the resolution remain open until the above response is received. The next House resolution, my apologies, also stems from the audit finding emphasis of matters, material uncertainties. The content of the House resolution is that the department must investigate alternative measures to reduce occurrence of lawsuits and submit the plan to the committee by the 31st of July 2021. The department responded, and the researcher's analysis is that the resolution has been adequately responded to, and that the department indicated that it has resorted in requesting assistance from the state attorney, which has resulted in the closure of 11 cases amounting to 5 million, and is now awaiting confirmation for a further 18 active cases, which is intended to reduce contingency liability to 19 million. The department further closed 2 matters amounting to 3 million. The research recommendation with regards to this particular resolution is that it is recommended that the resolution be closed. The next House resolution stems from the audit finding irregular expenditure. The content of the House resolution is that the department must submit its plan to prevent the occurrence of irregular expenditure. This plan must include the assessment of its effect in the 2020-2021 financial year by the 31st of July 2021. That the department must submit quarterly assessment reports on the implementation of its plan and its impact on the 2021-2022 financial year. The department responded, and the researcher's analysis is that the resolution has been adequately responded to by the department, as the department highlighted in its response that it has strengthened its internal controls to prevent non-compliance with legislation. Competitive bids above 500,000 are subjected to independent probity review as part of the open tender process. In the reports issued prior to award, for all items below 500,000, there is an internal quality assurance team that reviews and provides assurance on these transactions. Reports are issued on a monthly basis to the accounting officer. All deviations relating to emergency or sole provider are approved by the accounting officer. All other deviations are submitted to Provincial Treasury for approval in line with the relevant instruction note. The department further noted that the controls have resulted in an improvement in the control environment. The research recommendation or position is that it is recommended that the resolution be closed. The next resolution stems from the audit finding irregular expenditure as well. The House resolution states that the department must submit its plan to investigate and reduce the irregular expenditure accumulated over the years by the 31st of July 2021, and progress in the implementation of this plan every quarter continuing up until June 2022. The department responded. The researcher's analysis is that the resolution has been adequately responded to. The department indicated that irregular expenditure resulting from the prior years, which are legacy issues, will terminate once the contracts reach the end date. Irregular expenditure resulting from the Department of Infrastructure, which is DID, has been communicated to DID for further action and corrective measures. Disciplinary processes have commenced in respect of irregular expenditure based on the investigation reports. And lastly, the department has engaged Provincial Treasury with a view to obtain a condonment of the irregular expenditure in its financial records. The research recommendation or position with regards to this resolution is that it is recommended that the House resolution be closed. The next House resolution stems from the audit findings, internal controls. The content of the House resolution is that the department provides the committee with a progress report detailing the effectiveness of measures put in place to address internal control deficiencies by the 31st of July 2021, and a progress in the implementation of this plan every quarter continuing up until the end of June 2022. The department responded, and the researcher's analysis is that the resolution has been adequately responded to. The department emphasized that it has put numerous measures in place which will assist with the internal control deficiencies. The research recommendation or position is that it is recommended, my apologies, that the resolution be closed. The next the next House resolution stems from the audit findings of investigations. The content of the House resolution is that the department provides the committee with the progress report detailing the status of the investigations related to allegations of procurement irregularities, financial misconduct, fraud, and theft by the 31st of July 2021, and quarterly progress continuing up until the finalization thereof. The department's response is that the department responded, and the researcher's resolution is that the resolution has been adequately responded to. Of the 45 investigations, 36 have been completed, while 9 are still in progress. And an annexure has been placed to this regard. My apologies, Chair, if I can just deal with my dad on the phone on the other side. Okay.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
Sorry about that. And then the next House resolution is from the audit finding reporting period. The content of the House resolution is that the department must submit its audit action plans indicating the following: each area of finding by the AGSA in the 2019-20 financial year, plan by the department to address the area of finding, the timeframe and the progress of implementation as at the 31st of March 2021. The department must thereafter submit quarterly progress on the implementation of the audit action plans from 2020 to 2021 until the 30th, my apologies, of October 2021. The department responded, and the researcher's analysis in this regard is that the resolution has been adequately responded to by the department. In its response, the department indicated that there was a total of 53 findings, my apologies, and 29 audit action plans have been implemented by management, while 24 are still in progress. And it is recommended that the resolution should remain open until all audit action plans are completed. Thank you, Chair. That would be it for education.
Okay, thank you very much. Any comments from members? Member Randall?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I think this is a very comprehensive report, and I want to thank the presenters on it. And with all the annexures, I'm just worried, Chair. I mean, still 24 findings in progress, and we're busy now starting with the next round of annual reports. Maybe we can just ask them, to give us that urgent position on this 24 before we start dealing with the new ones. And then, Chair, in terms of the probity audits for bids older than 500,000, one would love to see the number of probity audits and what was the reasons for quality assurance being done on tenders. Maybe a few examples or a list of those. And then deviations. Chair, as a member of finance, I've often asked on the GPG White report that we get deviation reports from departments. However, up to date, I think Member Kanyani will also second this request that I've made. We have never been privy to deviation reports, and I think this is something that we as a committee should also zoom in with the next round of our interrogations, because deviations can cost you a lot of money and it can really impact on the performance of the department. And whilst we don't have any transparency with regards to that, thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comment?
I just concur with Honorable Randall and also supporting the presentation as has been made. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much. Let me ask Simon that on deviation, maybe please let's have a discussion at our next meeting, particularly on how we want to approach it, because it must be able to assist us with our process of considering the new annual reports, and it's something that we must prioritize. So if we can have some discussion so that it can help our researchers when they do the analysis for the new annual reports, that matter should be taken care of. That's the first thing. The second thing is that we will have to also ensure that these issues raised by Member Randall are raised with the department, and that we can be able to get their responses also before the end of October, so that when we consider the new financial year, the report for the new financial year, we really note progress made or no progress made, and then we're able to comment on them as well. Simon, your hand is up.
No, thank you, Chair. No, the first matter, it's noted regarding the deviation report. On the second matter on issues that were raised by Member Randall, my understanding is that the issues maybe should be raised as part of the preliminary questions for the year ended 31st March 2021. That was my understanding from Member Randall.
Okay, Member Randall, maybe you can clarify, because I thought you were saying these are matters related to the previous financial. In other words, the financial year ended 31st of March last year, not this year, because for this year it's new financial year and there's going to be new reports. But please clarify so that you can be able to see how you manage this.
No, thank you so much, Chair. I was only suggesting, we see that they say that they have been attending to deviation reports, but we have never been privy. So going forward, I think we should really include deviation reports, because sometimes they use this section in legislation to as an emergency, whilst it only indicates to poor demand and procurement plans, and they get away with it. Thank you.
Okay, no, Simon, you're correct. Thank you. So we'll treat it as such. Thank you very much. So this report is accepted, and we'll follow up on the matters as agreed. The resolutions that are open, we will have to ensure that they are responded to, or we assess progress when we deal with the new annual reports. And those that are closed, we take note thereof. Thank you very much. Shall we move on to the next one? I think it's social development. So it's the analysis of our resolutions or house resolutions on the audit outcomes of the social development, Gauteng Department of Social Development, for the year that ended 21 March last year, not this year. So let's hear what it says. Lerato, over to you again.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
I hope
again, I will start.
Lerato, I hope you've already spoken to Dad. Okay, thank you.
I did. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Go ahead.
I will start again with the summary, Chair. As it pertains to the analysis of House resolutions emanating from the 2019-20 annual reports of the Gauteng Department of Social Development, there are 4 resolutions that are proposed to remain open and 2 that are proposed for closure, meaning that there are 6 resolutions in total. The first House resolution stems from the audit finding emphasis of matter, material uncertainty. The content of the House resolution is that the department must submit a progress report on the finalization of the lawsuits reported for the period 31st of March 2020 to the 31st of July 2021, and every quarter continuing up until the finalization thereof. The department responded, and the researcher's analysis is that the resolution, my apologies, I will change that. The resolution was not adequately responded to, as the department stated that it had attached an annexure in response to the resolution, of which no attachment was sent to the committee. The researcher's recommendation position is that the committee notes the response with concern and should request the department to send the said attachment. It is recommended that the resolution then remain open. The second House resolution also stems from the audit finding emphasis of matter, material uncertainty. The content of the House resolution is that the department must investigate alternative measures to reduce the occurrence of lawsuits and submit the plan to the committee by the 31st of July 2021. The department responded, and the researcher's analysis is that the The resolution was not adequately responded to, as the department stated that it attached an annexure in response to the question, of which no attachment was sent to the committee. The researcher's recommendation and position is that the committee notes the response with concern and should request that the department send the said attachments. It is recommended that the resolution remain open until the attachment is sent for analysis. The third audit finding, the third House resolution, my apologies, also stems from the audit finding emphasis of matter with underspending of the vote. The content of the House resolution is that the department must implement adequate measures to spend its budget, intensify performance and consequence management processes to mitigate instances of findings on underspending, and provide the committee with a progress report by the 31st of July 2021, and continuing up until the end of June 2022. The department responded. And the researcher's analysis, which is on page 5, Simon, the researcher's analysis is that the resolution, my apologies again, was adequately responded to by the department as it provided adequate measures to spend its budget through intensifying performance and consequence management processes that will mitigate instances of findings on underspending through various channels, such as in-year monitoring reports submitted to the Provincial Treasury, monthly budget on bilateral meetings with program managers, quarterly review sessions with the MEC, HOD, as well as the management expenditure reports are sent to managers on a monthly basis to provide the status of expenditure on their allocated budget. The department further highlighted that the two areas which have been contributing factors to its under expenditure and thus shared a progress report of the two programs in their response. The research recommendation position is that the committee knows the response by the department, taking into consideration that the department was requested to furnish the committee with a progress report until June 2022. However, it is recommended that the resolution be closed, keeping that into consideration. The next House resolution stems from the audit finding expenditure management. That the content of the House resolution is that the department must look into developing new skills capacity in the NPO monitoring and evaluation function within the department, and fill the necessary vacant positions and provide the committee with a progress report by the 31st of July 2021 and every quarter continuing up until the finalization thereof. The department responded, and the researcher's analysis is that the question has been adequately responded to by the department in that all but 3 vacancies have been filled. And the researcher's recommendation or position is that the committee notes the response by the department. It is recommended that the resolution should remain open until the 3 vacancies in the head office have been filled. The next House resolution stems from the audit finding internal control deficiencies. The content of the House resolution is that the department must timelessly address root causes in audit findings identified by the AGSA and the internal audit to avoid the recurrence of findings on non-compliance with legislation, especially around monitoring and evaluation of NPOs, and provide the committee with a report by the 31st of July 2021 and every quarter continuing up until the end of June 2022. The department responded. The researcher's analysis in this regard is that the House resolution has been adequately responded to by the department, and the department stated that by filling the M&E posts, my apologies, the House resolution has been adequately responded to by, as the department stated that by filling the M&E posts in the MPO division, it will assist the department in addressing the root causes of the audit findings. The department further indicated that it will address the root cause through the strengthening of the compensating controls by improving the program monitoring of NPOs. The committee notes the research recommendation is that the committee notes the response, and it is recommended that the resolution be closed. The next House resolution stems from the audit finding reporting period. The content of the House resolution is that the department must submit its audit action plans indicating each area of finding by the AGSA in the 2019-20 financial year, plans by the department to address the areas of findings, and timeframes of implementation. This must include a progress report of the implementation as at the 31st of March 2021, which must be reported every quarter until the 30th of October 2021. The department responded, and the researcher's analysis is that the question was not adequately responded to, as the department stated it attached an annexure in response to the resolution, of which no attachment was sent to the committee. The research recommendation or position is that the committee knows the response with concern and should request the department to send the said attachment for analysis, and it is recommended that the resolution then remain open. And that would be the last House resolution from Social Development. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Are there any comments from members?
No, thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. The report is noted, and we'll follow up on the remaining resolutions as agreed. We move on to the next. Let me just indicate, honourable members, we've got confirmation from the Office of the Premier that they'll be joining us at 11. Thank you very much. Let's get the next presentation is from eGov. Over to you, Lerato.
Oh, sorry, Chair, just please give me a second while I open it on my side.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Am I still audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. So this is I'll start again with the summary. As it pertains to the House resolutions emanating from eGov 2019-20 annual report, there was a total of 12 House resolutions, of which 5 are proposed to remain open and 7 are proposed for closure. The first House resolution stems from the audit finding computer equipment. The content of the resolution is that the department must provide the committee with a progress report detailing the outcome of the interim audit process of the asset register by the 31st of July 2021 and continuing up until the finalization thereof. The researcher's analysis in this regard is that the resolution was not adequately responded to as the information requested was not provided. And if I can just go to the department's response, Chair, it's because the department stated that the interim audit of assets commenced only on the 12th of April 2021, and the Auditor General has not issued any findings as yet, and the progress report will only then be provided by the 31st of July. So with regards to the House
Lerato, there's a problem with your mic. We can't hear you. Bonnie, are you able to help? Or is it only me who can't hear from my side?
I can help, but my problem is the beaming. She's still got her thing on the screen, Chair. Maybe I can ask Simon to
predetermined.
Oh no, she's back.
Okay.
She's back. Lerato, we didn't
Chair,
hear
can you hear me?
Now we can hear you. We didn't hear you for some time. You can go ahead.
Chair, can you hear me?
Now we can hear you,
I'm
Lerato.
still audible.
You can go ahead. Lerato, we can hear you
Okay,
now.
Chair, I'll start off a second House resolution, which stems from the audit finding restatement of corresponding figures. The content of the House resolution is that the department must provide the committee with a progress report detailing the effectiveness of measures to review the annual financial statements to address the findings on restatement of corresponding figures and predetermined objectives by the 31st of July 2021, and a quarterly progress report continuing up until the end of June 2022. The department responded. The researcher's analysis is that the resolution was not adequately responded to as the information requested was not provided. This is similar to the same reasons given above, Chair, with the first House resolution. And then the research recommendation or position is that it is recommended that the resolution remain open until the information requested can be provided. The third House resolution stems from the audit finding irregular expenditure. The content of the House resolution is that the department must submit its plan to prevent the occurrence of irregular expenditure. This plan must include the assessment of its effect in the 2020-2021 financial year by the 31st of July 2021, that the department must submit quarterly assessment reports on the implementation of its plan and its impact on the 2021-2022 financial year every quarter continuing up until the end of June 2022. The researcher's analysis is that the resolution has been adequately responded to by the department. In its response, the department alluded to the fact that it has developed and is maintaining an irregular, fruitless and wasteful expenditure register. Moreover, the department indicated that it has applied for condonation for the prior year irregular expenditure as of September 2020. And furthermore, the department has applied for additional condonation relating to the remaining months from October 2020 to March 2021. The research recommendation is that the committee notes the response and it is recommended that the resolution be closed. The next House resolution stems from the audit finding irregular expenditure as well. The content of the House resolution is that the department must provide the committee with a progress report detailing the effectiveness of the measures put in place to address the findings in irregular expenditure and asset management by the 31st of July 2021 and every quarter continuing up until the end of June 2022. The department responded. The researcher's analysis is that the resolution was adequately responded to by the department. However, the effectiveness of the measures implemented will be tested by the irregularity audit and the regularity audit. The research recommendation or position is that it is recommended that the resolution remain open until the regularity audit has taken place. The fifth House resolution stems from the audit finding internal control deficiencies. The content of the House resolution is that the department must provide the committee with a progress report detailing the status of the investigation on the irregular expenditure by the 31st of July 2021 and every quarter continuing up until finalization thereof. The researcher's analysis is that the resolution was adequately responded to by the department. The investigation into irregular expenditure has been concluded and the final report will be issued to the head of department for his adoption and consideration on the 30th of April 2021. The researcher's recommendation is that the committee notes the response and it is recommended that the resolution be closed as the investigation has been finalized. The next House resolution stems from the audit finding also internal control deficiencies. The content of the House resolution is that the department must provide the committee with a progress report detailing the status of the recruitment process of the DDG ICT by the 31st of July 2021 and a quarter progress report continuing up until finalization thereof. The department responded and the researcher's analysis is that the resolution was adequately responded to by the department. In the response, the department anticipated that the incumbent will commence duty on the 31st of July 2021. So that is 2 months ago. The research recommendation position is that the committee notes the response and it is recommended that the resolution be closed. The next House resolution stems from the audit finding investigation into the transgression relating to the irregular and fruitless and wasteful expenditure. The content of the House resolution is that the department must provide the committee with a progress report detailing the status of the claim instituted by the State Attorney Office against the service provider implicated in the irregular, fruitless and wasteful expenditure by the 31st of July 2021 and a quarterly quarterly progress report continuing up until the finalization thereof. The researcher's analysis in this regard is that the resolution was adequately responded to, indicating that the recovery process amounting to 2 million is underway on behalf of e-government. The research recommendation is that the committee knows the response, and it is recommended, my apologies, that the resolution be closed. The next House resolution also stems from the audit finding investigation into transgression relating to the irregular, fruitless, and wasteful expenditure. The content of the House resolution is that the department must provide the committee with a progress report detailing the status of the blacklisting of the service provider implicated in the irregular, fruitless, and wasteful expenditure through the National Treasury Central Supply Database process by the 31st of July 2021, and a progress report continuing up until the finalization thereof. The researcher's analysis is that the resolution has been adequately responded to by the department. It has indicated that the blacklisting process is independent, or rather is dependent on the recovery process. The research recommendation is that the committee notes the response, and it is recommended that the resolution be closed. And then with regards to the next House resolution stemming from lawsuits, the House resolution states that the department must submit a quarterly progress report on the finalization of the lawsuits reported for the period 31st March 2020 by the 31st July 2021, and a quarterly progress report continuing up until the finalization thereof. The researcher's analysis is that the resolution has been adequately responded to by the department, indicating that during the 2019-20, 2020-2021 financial years, it did not have any lawsuits. The committee notes the response, and it is recommended that the resolution be closed. And again, in the House resolution stemming from the audit finding lawsuits, my apologies, the content of the House resolution is that the department must investigate alternative measures to reduce the occurrence of lawsuits and submit a plan to the committee by July 31st, 2021. Again, the department indicated that they did not have any lawsuits in this period, and the researcher's analysis is that the House resolution has been adequately responded to, and the position and recommendation is that it is recommended that it be closed. The next House resolution stems from the audit finding performance information. The content of the House resolution is that the department must provide the committee with a progress report detailing the status of the approval of the organizational structure by the 31st of July 2021, and a quarterly progress report continuing up until finalization thereof. The department provided its response, and that the revised proposal is due for engagements with the Office of the Premier and DPSA. That was by March 2021. The researcher's analysis is that the resolution has been adequately responded to by the department, and the researcher's recommendation or position is that it is recommended that the resolution remain open until the finalization of the process. The next House resolution stems from the audit finding reporting period. The content of the House resolution is that the department must submit its audit action plans indicating the following: each area of finding by the AGSA in the 2019-20 financial year, planned by the department to address the area of finding, the time frame and progress of implementation as at the 31st of March 2021. The department must thereafter submit quarterly progress on the implementation of the audit action plans for 2020-2021 until the 30th of October 2021. The department provided an attachment, and the researcher's analysis is that the resolution has been adequately responded to. The department provided the progress report of the audit action plans. The research recommendation and position is that it is recommended that the resolution should remain open until the finalization of the implementation of all action plans is complete. And that would be the last House resolution for e-government, Chair.
Thank you very much once again, Lerato. Any comments from members?
Chairperson, I can just confirm that Mr. Baloy was indeed appointed as the head of department, and although the department still faces a lot of challenges, especially with regards to the security operations contract, the SOC, the GSOC, and with CETA, and the whole procurement process there, it seems like Mr. Baloy is tightening the reins and trying to get this department back on track. So we are following the progress from that portfolio side, but I think it's been positive today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The advantages of having members in different other committees is exactly that, and we ensure that our tracking of reports is also well informed. We will have to engage the department, I think, when they table their annual report. If I understood correctly, when the MEC was introducing the report, she sounded like there was a lot of improvement, but we'll wait for the actual report and take it from that in that regard. Thank you very much. The report is noted and we'll follow up where necessary, as suggested. Thank you very much. Let's move on to the next report, which is is there somebody else wants to say something? Okay. The next report is Gauteng Infrastructure Finance Agency. It's their responses to our House resolution on the audit outcomes for the financial year 2019-2020. Over to you, Lerato. You are working for your money today, so you are earning your salary today.
Okay, thank you, Chair. As indicated, the next presentation is on the Gauteng Infrastructure Financing Agency, which is known as GIFA. I'll start again with the summary. In relation to the House resolutions emanating from the Gauteng Infrastructure Financing Agency Annual Report 2019-20, there were 2 House resolutions in total, of which both are recommended to remain open. The first House resolution stems from the audit finding basis of accounting. The content of the House resolution is that the entity must provide the committee with a report detailing the progress in resolving the matter regarding the use of SA standards of GRAP to prepare annual financial statements by the 31st of July 2021 and a quarterly progress report continuing up until the finalization thereof. The entity responded. The researcher's analysis is that the entity responded stating that the matter is still addressed with the Provincial Audit General, known as the PAG. Thereafter, the recommendations from the PAG will guide the process. The research recommendation is that it is recommended that the resolution remain open until the process have been completed, which will enable the entity to provide the committee with a response. The next the next House resolution, my apologies, stems from the audit finding annual financial statements. The content of the House resolution is that the entity must submit its audit action plans indicating the following: each area of finding by the AGSA in the 2019-20 financial year, planned by the entity to address the area of finding, the time frame, and the progress of implementation as at the 31st of March 2021. The department must thereafter submit quarterly progress on the implementation of the audit action plans for the 2020-2021 financial year until the 30th of October 2021. The department, or rather the entity, responded in a tabulated response, which goes from which is on page 3, my apologies. The researcher's analysis is that of the 2 audit action plans in the above table, one has been fully implemented while the other is in progress. The resolution has been adequately responded to by the department, and that the research recommendation is that it is recommended that the resolution remain open until audit action plans have been fully implemented. And that would be the last one for GIFA, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lerato. Any comments from members? Just few resolutions there.
Now, Chair, I also just want to support the recommendation that the resolution remain open until we've seen all audit action plans have been implemented. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And it's going to be easy to follow also because they are supposed to have responded to most of our resolutions and those other issues as relate to the new audit. And so we'll also use that to follow up on that. Thank you very much. Shall we move on to the next report, which is the report of the Department of Infrastructure Development, DID.
Okay, Chair. Thank you. I will start again with the summary for Department of Infrastructure. As it pertains to the House resolutions emanating from the annual report from the Gauteng Department of Infrastructure and Development 2019-20, there were 11 House resolutions in total, of which 7 are recommended to be closed and 4 are recommended to remain open. The first House resolution stems from the audit finding emphasis of matter, material uncertainties. The content of the House resolution is that the department must submit quarterly progress report on the finalization of the lawsuits reported for the period 31st March 2020 by the 31st of July 2021, and a quarterly progress report continuing up until the finalization thereof. The department responded with an annexure, and in the researcher's analysis is that in its response, the department indicated that there were 82 lawsuits in total. Of the 82, 13 have been finalized, 3 are on accrual phase, and 2 are dormant, and 62 are still active. The department responded adequately to this House resolution, and the annexure is there for the ease of reference for members. The research recommendation is that the resolution be closed. The second House resolution stems from the audit findings, emphasis of matters, material uncertainties. The content of the House resolution is that the department must investigate alternative measures to reduce the occurrence of lawsuits and submit the plan to the committee by the 31st of July 2021. The department responded. The researcher's analysis is that the department cited that the reduction of lawsuits will be enabled by the submission of invoices to the electronic invoicing system, as well as training on the conditions of invoices. The effectiveness of these measures will be determined during the upcoming annual report process. The resolution has been adequately responded to by the department, and therefore the research recommendation is that it is recommended that the resolution be closed. The next House resolution stems from the audit finding restatement of corresponding figures. The content of the House resolution is that the department must implement adequate processes to curb restatements of corresponding figures and provide the committee with a progress report detailing the effectiveness of the process by the 31st of July 2021 and a quarterly progress report continuing up until the end of June 2022. The department responded. And the researcher's analysis is that the department indicated that it has established an audit war room where financial notes are discussed. This war room is to allow directors, chief directors, as well as DDGs to illustrate the department's challenges around their respective areas and to take accountability.
We want to see the response. Give the analysis. If you can move.
Can I continue, Chair?
Yes, we're just reminding the person who's helping with the presentation to move so that you can follow what you are saying.
Okay, Chair, I'll start again with the researcher's analysis. The department indicated that it has established an audit war room where financial notes are being discussed rather. This war room is to allow directors, chief directors, and DDGs to illustrate to the department challenges around their respective areas and to take accountability around the figures that would be disclosed to the financial statements. In this regard, the resolution has been adequately responded to, and the research recommendation is that it is recommended that the resolution be closed. The next House resolution stems from the audit findings, payables not recognized. The content of the House resolution is that the department must submit its plans to prevent.
Just hold on. I'm not sure if Simon has problems on his side because what you are presenting is not moving from our side. Okay, now it started to move. Thank you. Go ahead, Lerato.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I'll start again with the content of the House resolution, that the department must submit its plans to prevent overcommitments. This plan must include the assessment of its effects in the 2020-2021 financial year by the 31st of July 2021. That the department must also supply quarterly assessment reports on the implementation of the plan and its impact of the 2021-2022 financial year, every quarter continuing up until June 2022. The department responded, and the researcher's analysis is that the department provided a plan to prevent overcommitments through its establishment of the Quality Assurance Committee, which will develop an integrated reporting template, which will align the annual performance plans, the annual operating plans, as well as the budget and procurement plans. However, the department did not detail the effectiveness of this committee in the 2020-2021 financial year as requested by SCOPA. The resolution has therefore only been partly responded to. The research recommendation is that it is recommended that the resolution remain open until the resolution has been adequately responded to by the department, meaning that the resolution be responded to in its entirety. The next House resolution stems from the audit finding annual financial statements. The content of the House resolution is that the department must provide the committee with a progress report detailing the effectiveness of the dedicated team to prepare the interim financial statements during the year, as well as the annual financial statements by the 31st of July 2021, and a quarterly progress report continuing up until the end of June 2022. The department responded, and the researcher's analysis is that the department alluded that the current team in the finance that prepares the financial statements have the necessary qualifications for the purpose of compiling the financial statements. The department further highlighted that the process followed in the preparation of the interim financial statements, which include that the notes are prepared by one official, then are submitted for review to the supervisor. The supervisor uses the accounting assertions for completeness, accuracy, and existence. After the supervisor has checked the respective note, he or she then will sign it off and submit the copy to the file. The file will then be submitted to the deputy director, the director, the chief director, and then the chief financial officer for reviews. A complete file will then be submitted to the Gauteng Treasury and Internal Controls for reviews. And in this regard, we stated that the House resolution has been adequately responded to, and the research recommendation or position is that it is recommended that the resolution be closed. The next audit finding,
Before you continue, I think
Yes,
I must intervene and ask that you be assisted with skills or your system be upgraded so that when you make presentations, you can make them from your side. Because as things stand now, we are unable to follow what you are presenting because the slides or the presentation is not moving. We don't know what the problem is. However, the advantage that we as members have got the reports, so we're able to follow you. I'm just worried about our stakeholders. So, and if maybe the matter can be resolved, it can help a lot. But go ahead and we'll see how we handle it. You can go ahead, Lerato.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Chair. I'm just trying to see where I was actually. Okay, the House resolution stems from the audit finding 30 days payment. The content of the House resolution is that the department must provide the committee with a progress report detailing the effectiveness of the inclusion of the 30 days payment as a target in its annual performance plan to address the delays in paying service providers by the 31st of July 2021 and every quarter continuing up until the end of June 2022. The department responded, and the researcher's analysis, which is at the top of page 6, the researcher's analysis is that the department indicated that the effectiveness of the inclusion of the 30-day payment as a target in its annual financial performance plan has resulted in the department achieving 70% of their annual target with regard to the payment of invoices within 30 days as it relates to DID only. Moreover, the payment war room has been established to deal with long outstanding invoices in the system, and progress is presented and discussed to the Auditor General war room on a weekly basis. The resolution has been adequately responded to in this regard, and the research recommendation or position is that it is recommended that the resolution be closed. Chair, if I may ask, you had said that the Office of the Premier is joining at 11. Should I continue from 7 going down?
Continue and finish. Continue and finish.
Okay, thank you, Chair. The next House resolution stems from the audit finding irregular expenditure. The content of the House resolution is that the department must submit its plan to prevent the occurrence of irregular expenditure by the 31st of July 2021. This plan must include the assessment of its effect of the 2020-2021 financial year. The department responded, and the researcher's analysis is at the top of page 7. The researcher's analysis is that the department indicated its plan to prevent occurrence of irregular expenditure. The plan includes a central point in the departmental website to house all relevant prescripts, policies, checklists, standard operation procedures, regulations, bid committee charters, delegation of practice notes, training for training for all newly appointed SCM officials regarding SCM prescripts and processes. Further to that, information sharing sessions with all SCM practitioners to be held on a monthly basis. Managers responsible for authorization of transactions are to ensure compliance to process prior to authorization. The department's response, however, did not include the assessment of its effect in the 2020-2021 financial year. The resolution has therefore only been partially responded to by the department. The researcher's recommendation or position is that it is recommended that the resolution remain open until all aspects of the resolution have been responded to by the department. The next House resolution stems from the audit finding irregular expenditure. The content of the House resolution is that the department must submit its plan to investigate and reduce the irregular expenditure accumulated over years by the 31st of July 2021 and quarterly progress.
Lerato, can you indicate what the resolution number is that? Because I think Simon is trying to keep up with you.
It's resolution number 8, Chair. The content of that House resolution is that the department must submit its plans to investigate and reduce the irregular expenditure accumulated over years by the 31st of July 2021 and a quarterly progress report continuing up until the finalization thereof. The department responded. The researcher's analysis is that the department cited that the recruitment process to appoint investigators who will prioritize all irregular expenditure allegations is underway. The appointment should be made by the end of the first quarter of the 2021-2022 financial year. The department must keep the committee informed about this process. The resolution has been adequately responded to by the department, and it is recommended that the resolution be closed. The next House resolution is House resolution number 9, stemming from the audit finding internal control deficiencies. The content of the House resolution is that the department must provide the committee with a progress report detailing the effectiveness of the measures put in place to address findings on internal control deficiencies by the 31st of July 2021 and every quarter continuing up until the end of June 2022. The department responded, and the researcher's analysis is that the department provided the committee with a report with a progress report detailing the progress in resolving the audit findings on internal control deficiencies. However, it did not provide a progress report detailing the effectiveness of the measures put in place to address the findings on internal control deficiencies as requested in the resolution. That means that the department only responded partly to the resolution. The annexure is attached there for the members' ease of reference. The recommendation by the researchers is that it is recommended that the resolution remain open until the resolution has been responded to adequately by the department. The next House resolution stems from the audit finding investigations. The content of the House resolution is that the department must provide the committee with a progress report detailing the status of the investigation by the 31st of July 2021 and a quarterly progress report continuing up until the finalization thereof. The department responded in a tabulated format from page 9 going all the way down to page 12, Simon. And at the bottom of page 12 would be the researcher's analysis. The researcher's analysis is that the department has indicated in the above table that there were 28 investigations, of which 23 have been completed, while the remaining 5 are in progress. The completion of the remaining 5 were set to be completed by the end of July 2021. The department should inform the committee whether the remaining 5 were completed as per the July 2021 deadline. However, in this regard, the resolution has been adequately responded to by the department, and it is recommended that the resolution be closed. The next House resolution stems from the audit finding reporting period. The content of the House resolution is that the department must submit its audit action plans indicating the following: each area of finding by the AGSA by the 2019-20 financial year, planned by the department to address the area of finding, the time frame and the progress, of implementation as at the 31st of March 2021. The department must thereafter submit quarterly progress on the implementation of the audit action plans for the 2020-2021 financial year until the 30th of October 2021. The department responded with an annexure. The researcher's analysis is that the department furnished the committee with each area of finding by the AGSA in the 2019-20 financial year, the plan by the department to address the area of finding, as well as the time frame and the progress of implementation. In its response, 80% of the action plans were fully implemented, while the remaining 16% have not been resolved. The department responded to the resolution adequately, and it is recommended that the resolution remain open until all action plans have been fully recommended. That would be the last House resolution relating to the Gauteng Department of Infrastructure Development, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lerato, for that. Over to you, Honorable Randall.
Yes, thank you so much, Chair. I'm just very curious to get clarity on the following. On 8.2, with regards to the irregular expenditure, the department said that they're going to appoint investigators. But now 10.2, all the investigations have been finalized. So how does this two tie in? Is it they're appointing investigators for new cases, or I just need clarity? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Lerato, if you can help with that, let's hear Honorable Ganyane first.
Oh, yeah. No, it's on these House resolutions. I could see that the researchers are saying that they've adequately responded. I know they've given us a very long table where they demonstrate how they really responded to these issues. But if you look at their explanation, that there is 5 outstanding, which was supposed to be responded to by the end of July, the 21st of July, but that is not done. So I'm trying to reconcile the researchers' conclusion that has been responded to, while there's still this 5 that is, because they're not explaining about the 5, because they're supposed to say, because as it is that the 5 by the 21st of July would have been responded to, but that is not the case. That's the clarity, so that we are able to conclude it accordingly. Thanks, Chair.
Yeah, maybe what we should say, Honorable Ganyane, on that one, because I saw some of them like those, that we should still follow up on those matters on the areas that the researcher says there's no sufficient information that although they propose that we close those resolutions, maybe we must agree as a committee that they must remain open until we've received all the necessary information. Right, I'm not sure if you are able to respond to the earlier comment by Member Randall. If there is such yeah, okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. In the resolution, Member Randall, the first one, the one on 8 point, the one regarding the hiring or the employment of the investigators, that is for if I can put it that way, the next coming investigations, because the ones in number 10 are for the investigations of the prior years. If I can, yeah, that's how I would respond to that. And if I could just also then just respond to Member Kanyane, I understand what Member Kanyane is saying. The House resolution indicated that, please just give me a second. The House resolution indicated that the department provide a status of the investigation by the 31st of July 2021, as well as a progress report continuing up until the finalization. So a quarterly progress report will then be provided to the committee in that regard. I don't know if that provides clarity. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much, Lerato. Honourable members, may I assume that we are noting the report, and where we still need to make follow-ups, we will do so, and that this report will also be considered at the time when we deal with the annual report for the new financial year, the process which has already begun. Thank you very much. As indicated earlier, thank you, Lerato. As indicated earlier, we had agreed that the Office of the Premier or the Premier will be able to join us at 11 o'clock. They have joined us. Welcome, Honourable Premier, and welcome to the senior officials in your office. Honourable members, what we will do now is that we will go back to item number 5, which is the presentation by the Premier. Let me just indicate that you remember that the Premier was supposed to join us last week, and he asked for, because of an urgent matter that arose at the time, that we postpone this to this week. And I think we, on behalf of the committee, want to thank the Premier for indicating that he prefers to be the one that presents these reports rather than send officials. We really appreciate that, Premier. And also to indicate that our expectation is that you will be able to indicate to us on some of the, you'll be able to indicate to us on some of the strategies or plans that are there. I'm sorry about that, on some of the plans and strategies that are there in your office, which were supposed to have discussed early this year, but we had to postpone because of some of the issues. We agreed that we'll engage with those at this session today. We also expect that you'll present to us progress made in dealing with some of the forensic, in fact, dealing with forensic investigations in your office for the financial year that concluded on the 31st of March, as indicated in our request to you. So welcome, Honourable Premier. I hand over to you. May I request that if there's any presentation to be made on your side, I request that it be done by your officials rather than we do it from our side, because sometimes it disrupts the flow if you keep on saying, can it be moved to the next slide? Can it be moved to the next slide? So if Simon and them can give the senior management in your office the rights to present. Thank you very much. Over to you, Honourable Premier, and you're welcome.
Thank you very much, Chairperson of SCOPA and members of SCOPA in our legislature. Greetings to the staff also who are working with SCOPA. I do have with me a team led by the acting DG, Mr. Thabo Masebe, and the DDGs. The presentation we are going to make to SCOPA will be done. I'm going to do some introduction and setting the scene. That presentation will be done by Mildred, who is responsible. Mildred is responsible basically for integrity management, the integrity management unit in the office of the Premier. And she works with all the agencies. We're going to share with SCOPA which agencies are those, all of them that have to do with issues of particularly in forensic investigations and the implementation thereof by various departments. So she will do the detailed presentation, but Darion is here as well. As I said, the DG, acting DG, Mr. Masebe, is here. It is and I was saying to you, Chairperson, that it's for the first time I come to SCOPA. So you know, when it's for the first time you come to a committee, so let me give my maiden remarks to the committee. We know you are a very important committee of our legislature. I'm hoping in the process that Mildred is given the rights to control the presentation. My remarks are also based on the presentation itself. So I'm going to, if you can show it up there already,
Simon, if you can pull it down, yes, thank you.
So everything I'm going to be saying is in here, and again, Mildred is going to focus on the core areas of the work. But in this briefing, so basically we are giving an update to SCOPA as requested on the provincial forensic investigations. And the principal issue is about how provincial government, because forensic investigations are about matters that are other issues of fraud and corruption or maladministration of one type or the other. So we are going to first share with you what is the provincial government's integrity framework. So because that stuff is wrongdoing. So the reason you have forensic investigations is because they would be wrongdoing. But how do you build a culture, an institutional culture, processes and systems that will firstly anticipate, prevent wrongdoing, and where it happens, detect it and deal with it, detect it, investigate it, and deal with it. So we are going to be sharing with SCOPA that whole value chain. So firstly, we have an integrity framework. I'm going to present to you what that integrity framework means for the whole of the provincial government. And we have been working with some of the institutions to also bring it into local government. Secondly, we have the anti-corruption strategy. Integrity promotion and integrity management is about building a culture that makes people to do the right things, and systems and institutions that prevent wrongdoing. Whereas anti-corruption often comes when people have done wrong things. The issue is, can you have consequences for wrongdoing? What are these measures? How do you detect it? How do you investigate it? And who does the investigation? We'll share with you the institutional map of where are investigations done, by what type of wrongdoing, what type of wrongdoing. And then we'll also share with you the picture of the whole province in that regard. So the first things those would be the first things, to share with you our policy framework and secondly, our strategy. And then Mildred will go into details around what is the exact picture, including what matters have been investigated by which institutions. And I want to say that we've got several institutions. Often when people think of forensic investigations, they think of one. But we've got external institutions like the AG, the Public Service Commission, the Public Protector, the Special Investigation Unit, amongst them. They are the external, some are statutory bodies, Chapter 9 institutions, others are law enforcement institutions, but they are external ones, and then there are the others they deal with different type of malfeasance or maladministration or corruption or fraud. We are going to share with you the different roles they play and what have they done in our province, how many cases they have dealt with each of those institutions. We'll also present to you what other measures, integrity management measures we are putting in place. And then we will come to another institution that we call this is an internal institution, the Provincial Forensic Audit Unit, Forensic Audits Unit itself. Apart from those done by others, what work has it done? And all of that as we go through that, we will be saying to you what has been the actions taken by provincial government on the investigations that come out of these processes. So we are giving an overview. We are giving you an overview, chairperson of SCOPA and members. In some instances, we will have a bit of detailed numbers, but we are also compiling a full detailed report that will look at department by department, case by case. That report will be released at the end of this month. I've been saying that we are doing that. There's a few matters that some of the institutions doing investigations are confirming that they dealt with this matter. This is where it is. So we are finalizing that so that when we release a public report on what we call the state of integrity, the state of ethics and integrity in the Gauteng provincial government, that's where the report we are going to release at the end of this month. When we release that report, what we are sharing with you is an overview of these different interventions and investigations and how many cases have been dealt with and where are those cases, how many have received, for example, the level of criminal cases and then civil claims and disciplinary cases and the recovery of money. Because in the end, consequence management includes doing that. Of course, there are other things about consequence management that would be covered in our legislative framework. So this is, Chair, this is a report that we are going to present to share with you. As I say to you, some areas of reporting will be updated as we are. I have been meeting with MECs and HODs to say to them, there were the following reports in your department, forensic investigations over the past 5 years. This were done, there was this, there was what action has been taken. In instances where there was no action taken and that this is a new MEC, I've said, or even a new HOD, there must be clear demonstration of the implementation of the recommendations. So you will see that there's over 1,200 recommendations that came out of various forensic investigations. And you will see that we have implemented and are implementing over 80% of those. You will see that in the report Mildred is going to be taking us through. Some in the process of implementation means the cases are somewhere in the value chain. Other cases may be in court, others may be in the special tribunal. Others may be the disciplinary processes, may be such fresh cases that the disciplinary processes are underway. Others have been concluded. As I say, others are with the Hawks. We are not going to give you the case by case. We're doing an overview, but in that full detailed report, it will be there. Some details we also worried we can't give you the specific detail of a case, because if it is either before a court or it is with a particular authority, there may be sensitivities on how much. But we want the SCOPA to know the level, the degree of preventive measures, the degree of measures to detect, the degree of investigations. You are only asking a question on one area of the value chain of dealing with wrongdoing. Investigation is one area of the value chain, but there must be prevention, there must be detection, and there must be, if things pass through those two phases, then they must be investigated. It means wrongdoing has passed through prevention, and it possibly detected when it has already happened. There must be investigation. Investigations are not for their own sake. There must be remedial action. And that remedial action must be of such a serious nature that if money has been lost, there is a course of action about recovering the money, or where there are criminal activities, there's a course of action that the matters are not with the provincial government, but they are with the authority, the relevant authorities. So that's that's what this report is going to do, Chairperson, and we are willing to answer any questions. So Mildred is going to do the entire presentation. I will go to the conclusion. So when she goes to the very last, you see table of contents, it concludes. It's the purpose of the report, the governance roadmap, the pillars of our integrity framework, our strategy to deal with corruption, prevention and detection measures, investigations by external institutions, and then investigations commissioned by the internal institution called the PFA, and then what resolution and remedial action was taken. So I will go to the last part of conclusion after Mildred has taken us through. So Mildred Mkopane, over to you. Again, I want to say that she's got a huge responsibility working with the DG on coordinating with all these agencies and all the departments, and on ensuring that everything that comes from an investigation report is put into the value chain to say what has happened to that investigation and what has been the consequences thereof. So Chair, can I hand over to Mildred?
Over to you, Mkopane.
Thank you, Mr. Premier. Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning, Chair, Mr. Premier, the members of the committee, DG, and the leadership of the Office of the Premier. As the Premier has indicated that our presentation, so I think I'll just go straight to the integrity management framework, where I will present the framework per se. So just to indicate that the province in 2016 approved the
I don't know if it's possible that you can make your presentation to be in a slide presentation form so that you can easily follow what you are saying.
Okay, sorry, Chair, on my side it's on slide presentation format. Let me just unshare and share again.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's fine.
Okay. No, thank you very much, Chair. My sincere apology for that. So just to indicate that in 2016, the province...
Chair, I'm sorry, Chair. Mildred, we can't see your face. It's as if you don't want to be seen. I don't want SCOPA to think that you either close the camera if there's a problem. You have gone to OCPOL many times, so you do want to be seen. So, so from what I see, I don't know, maybe it's me only, Chair, maybe members can see her, but I suggest if there's a problem with the camera, she just closes the camera.
Yeah, Premier, I had thought that maybe the problem is the lighting where she is, but yeah, it's fine. Thank you very much for noticing that as well. Thank you.
My sincere apology. I think it's a challenge with the camera. Thank you. So in 2016, the Executive Council approved the Integrity Management Framework, and the framework, as the Premier has indicated, seeks to actually to institutionalize integrity management in the province and make sure that we build a culture of ethics. So the framework has got two pillars. It has got two areas, which is the Integrity Internal Control Framework, as well as the Integrity Management pillar. On the pillar side, it's the issues around the governance arrangements, the structures that needs to be there in the province, as well as in the institutions like in GPG, as well as in the municipalities. And it also has the instruments, which is basically the guiding principles that we are using to drive integrity in the province, and then also the process and standards that we have put in place to make sure that we drive integrity. Then with regard to the Integrity Management Internal Control Framework, I'm going to touch on just 5 critical areas. The first one is leadership philosophy and leadership style. And this aspect of the integrity framework focuses on the issue of the tone at the top, because management, the leadership of the province has committed to make sure that integrity or ethical behavior becomes something that is key in the province, and to walk the talk, not to just say something, but also to make sure that we are able to implement what they've actually approved. And then the other aspect is the ethical values, of which the ethical values are driven by the 3 critical values that we've adopted as a province. One is on issues of transparency. I think you've already picked it up in terms of the open tender process, because that's where we're driving the issues of transparency. Then there's issues of integrity, as alluded to earlier on, and the issue of accountability, because that's the emphasis that we have as a province, to make sure that everybody adopt positive values, and then we start to read all the negative values that are there in the province. So that's what we are driving, and also to change the organizational culture. And then this is basically done through the various assessments that we do, and also the programs that we've implemented in the province to change the behavioral patterns of the individuals, to make sure that the officials in organizations act in an ethical manner. And the reason why we're doing this is because of research has shown over the period that there's about 10% of people in organizations that are actually corrupt. And then we've got 80% that are actually in between being corrupt or being ethical. And then the other 10% is being ethical. So hence we're using the value system as well as the organizational culture to change the behavioral pattern of the 80%. Then the other aspects relates to the compliance policy and framework. As you are aware that in terms of the reports that are coming from AG and other stakeholders, majority of the issues that are coming up is in relation to compliance, to say that irregular expenditure emanates from non-compliance with legislative prescript. So from our side, we're working on developing the policy framework on compliance and making sure that the individuals within the organizations or departments do comply with the legislative framework, and also to do the risk assessment around compliance and develop mitigation strategies thereof, and also to improve the processes to make sure that in the organizations, people do comply with the legislative framework. Then the last aspect that I want to talk about, it relates to the delegations of authority and responsibility, where we emphasize the issue of making sure that delegations are devolved to the lowest level in the organization, and everybody has been given an authority. They are able to account to what has been given to them. So those are the key aspects that we're driving to change the behavioral pattern and the culture within the Gauteng provincial government, including the municipalities. With regard to the anti-corruption strategy, It was approved in 2014, and the strategy has got 4 pillars, which is the prevention, detection, investigation, and resolution. On the prevention side, we've got the issues around employee vetting, where all the SMS members go through the vetting, the supply chain management, those that are in key high-risk areas, they go through vetting as well. And then risk management, where we conduct risk assessment on ethics as well as on fraud prevention. And also the other area that we look into is the issue of training and awareness, where we use our training and awareness programs to change the behavioral pattern, to change the culture. So there's programs that we've put in place to resourcialize the officials in government in order to change their behavioral pattern. And also the other aspect relates to policies and procedures, where we are reviewing some of the key policies like supply chain management, HR policies, to make sure that ethical standards are embedded in those policies. Then on the detection side, the key role players for us is internal audit. We work very closely with the Gauteng Audit Services, because as they do their audit, they're able to identify or detect areas of fraud and corruption, and areas where we need to improve internal controls in relation to fraud and corruption. And we do share our reports with them. They do share the reports with us. And then where we need to investigate, that information will go to our corruption database, whereby we'll include it in the matters that needs to be investigated. Then we have the management action, where management plays a critical role in terms of making sure that they put in place system of internal control, as well as making sure that they do detect any incidents of unethical behavior. And we also have a whistleblowing a system that officials as well as external stakeholders are able to report matters of investigation. Then in the investigation side, we've got it's a two-pronged approach, as the Premier has indicated, that we've got our internal capacity, which is made up of the Provincial Forensic Auditing Unit, as well as some capacity that is sitting in departments in terms of minimum anti-corruption capacity requirements. And also we've got the investigations that are done by other agencies, such as the Auditor General, the Public Protector, and as well as the Public Service Commission in terms of the Constitution. Also, we have got the investigations that are done by SIU, and in this regard, so they do assist in terms of doing investigation. And we are in the process also to look into working with the new directorate that has been established within the prosecution unit, to see how can they also look at the high impact investigations. Then in terms of resolution, one of the key areas that we look at is the issue of making sure that there's disciplinary actions that are being taken against those that have been implicated in the reports, and that needs where disciplinary processes needs to be instituted. And also the reports will recommend improvement of internal controls, and then that we work closely with the internal audit unit, where they'll include in terms of the follow-up reports to make sure that the departments do implement those internal controls as recommended in the forensic investigation reports. Then we've got the other aspect that relates to civil recovery, where we are working very closely with the asset forfeiture unit. They are assisting us now in terms of recovering some of the monies, as well as the special tribunal in the SIU that with regard to the investigations that they're doing on our behalf, that they're able to work through the process of recovery. With criminal prosecution, where we need to open up a case, we do open up cases with the commercial crime unit for them to criminally investigate and then take the matters to the prosecution, to the courts for criminal charges. So in terms of, I think I've highlighted here to say that how we are actually structured, how we are collaborating with other agencies to make sure that we've got a clean governance and integrity in the province. And as I indicated, that we work with various stakeholders like your AG, Public Protector, Public Service Commission, the SEPS and Asset Forfeiture Unit, as well as the National Prosecution Unit with regard to the agencies that are able to assist us. And then the other agency that we're working with is the State Security Agency with regards to vetting of SMS and supply chain management officials, as well as to assist us with regard to the issues that relates to lifestyle audits, and also in terms of compliance with minimum security standards. And then, as indicated, we do have the forensic unit and the integrity management unit that are actually responsible for making sure that we build a system of integrity in the province. We do conduct risk assessment and develop prevention measures to make sure that those risks are actually mitigated, and the collaboration that we have with the law enforcement agencies and working with them in ensuring that we implement their recommendations. So just to take you through the pillars, I'm going to start with the prevention and detection measures that we are putting in place. The first aspect that I want to deal with, it relates to the submission of disclosures by SMS members, whereby over the period of 3 years, I can indicate that we've been achieving 100% except for 2019-2020, where we had only one official who was in an incapacity leave who couldn't submit the disclosure. But over the period, we've been achieving 100%. So we use the disclosures to assess the issues of integrity, to check if at all there are any risks that requires us to further investigate or maybe to conduct any lifestyle audit on various individuals that are in the SMS level. Then on the lifestyle audit, as per the decision that was taken by the Executive Council and which was announced by Mr. Premier, that all executive members must undergo lifestyle audit, and that should be conducted by the State Security Agency. And this is basically in line with the framework that has been developed by the national government. So the process has already started, and we are hoping that it will be completed by end of November, because all the members of the Executive Council have submitted all the necessary documents that were required by the State Security Agency. And then also from our side, we looking at the issues of making sure that we do extend the lifestyle audit to other as stakeholders, such as the chief executive officers of the entities, because the HODs are actually vetted before they're being appointed. And also we do monitor what is happening with regard to the heads of departments as well as the SMS. Where we identify a risk, then we do would be recommending for a lifestyle audit to be conducted. Then with regard to vetting of SMS and SEM, over the period, we can indicate that to date, we've got 83% of SMS and members of supply chain management that have completed the vetting, or they are actually awaiting the outcome of vetting from the SSA. So some of the officials, we just need a SSA to indicate whether they are getting the vetting certificates or not. But at least we've achieved 83%. And then 17% of those officials that have not submitted, the accounting officers have been directed to institute disciplinary actions against them, because it is compulsory for the SEM and SMS officials to be vetted. So vetting is basically undertaken to ensure that we reduce the risk of fraud and corruption, and also to detect any potential conflict of interest, and also to look at the issues of whether there's ethical or unethical behaviors that individuals are involved in. And as the Premier has publicly announced that all the HODs that have been appointed and the DDGs that are being appointed, they're actually being vetted. So that is before they are appointed into the system, they are vetted by SSA. With regard to training, as I indicated, that we do a training, and also that people comply with the requirements of the public service regulation. There's about 9,537 officials that have been trained on the code of conduct, as it has been amended in 2016. However, every year we do train this. If cumulatively we've got a huge number of officials that have been trained on the code of conduct, and also we've got a partnership with GCRA as well as the NSG for officials in Gauteng provincial government to go through the ethics online training, and they are issued with a certificate. So just for 2020-2021 financial year, we've got about 742 officials that have completed the ethics online training program. And furthermore, with regard to our prevention programs, as required by the PFMA, that the accounting officers need to make sure that fraud risk assessment are conducted on an annual basis. As Office of the Premier, we work with the departments where we assist them in the in conducting the fraud risk assessment and the development of fraud risk registers and the fraud prevention plans. So this is done on an annual basis with all the departments. And also from our side to make sure that we are proactive in detecting and issues of fraud and corruption. We do have a tool that we are using to actually monitor compliance with supply chain management legislative framework, and also to provide assurance on the achievement of departments' objectives. So the tool, basically, we use it to analyze the transactions and identify any anomalies that would require investigations. And also we do conduct what we call fraud detection reviews. It's a risk-based approach of identifying any areas that requires to be investigated. So we look at high-value transactions in this regard. So the accounting officers and the accounting authorities have established the risk management and ethics management units, and those units are actually responsible for coordinating and implementing the actions as recommended in the fraud prevention plans, the FDRs, as well as the reports that comes from various stakeholders. So with regard to employees that are doing business with the organs of state, because the legislation prohibits any officials to do business with the organs of state, we do monitor as we receive the reports from various stakeholders such as DPSA, as well as the Auditor General, as well as the Gauteng Audit Advisory Services. So we do a follow-up and then check with the department, because once they receive the report, they have to investigate, and where the outcome is that the employee has been doing business with the organs of state, then they have to institute disciplinary processes. Where they need to recover the monies, they do so. So we had 3 officials that have been confirmed to be doing business with the organs of state, and warning letters have been issued to those officials. Then with regard to the implementation of the fraud prevention plans for 2020-2021 financial year, we can indicate that we had about 467 action plans that had to be implemented by all the departments, and then about 361, which constitutes 77%, have been implemented, 19% were in progress, and then also 4% were not yet implemented. However, the departments are putting in place plans to make sure that they implement the ones that are outstanding. And then there's 2 departments that didn't have updated fraud prevention plans, so which is transport as well as the Department of Health, and we have been working with them to update that in the 2021-2022 financial year. As part of our preventative measures, as the members are aware that the province has implemented the open tender system, and that system, the outcome of the system was to improve openness and transparency of provincial procurement processes in order to build a public confidence in the procurement system and transform the current procurement processes to ensure compliance with legislative and regulatory framework, and then to minimize the risk of corruption and manipulation of tender processes, and also to reinstitute core standards of behavior, ethics, and professionalism in SEM, and to the transformation of the state and good governance as part of the TRM program that we have, and also to strengthen internal controls and control environments by subjecting tender processes to probity audits and manage all the stages of the procurement processes, and build a capacity within SEM to make sure that the procurement process is done in an ethical manner. And then in terms of the success factors, we can say that it has enhanced bid committees members' skills and has improved bid specification through probity review prior to publication of the tenders. So the probity auditors are actually involved in the process of the bid specification to make sure that it's adequate and it doesn't have any errors, and it's actually consistent with the requirements of the regulation. And also the success factors is that the open tender system prevents irregular expenditure through the probity audit and the processes of ensuring that all tenders do comply with the requirements of the legislation. And the other aspect is that it prevents the possible litigation by bidders through probity auditing of the evaluation by the relevant bid committees, ensuring fair treatment of bidders in the evaluation. So basically what we've done with the open tender system is that we've implemented a process of an independent structure that is looking into what is happening throughout the process from the bid specification up until to the end of adjudication. And the last aspect is that the open tender system actually empowers the service providers through the public observation, because the public is able to observe the tender adjudication process, and also it helps them to gain knowledge in terms of how should they tender in future. Then the other area that we are improving as the province to make sure that we reduce the incidence of fraud and corruption is the implementation of the online procurement system, whereby the processes are being automated, and to make sure that we do streamline the business processes around supply chain management. And also we want to make sure that we improve compliance with the prescripts, and also to make sure that we reduce the issues of unethical behaviors in the process. So with regard to management action, as indicated, that management actually regularly and practically demonstrate that they are actually fighting corruption, and they are responsible for making sure that officials are operating within the required legislative framework. And management also participates in the training and also support the implementation of integrity management programs. And also just to indicate that the Premier has engaged the SMS members on the vision of the sixth administration, and this what we do from our side, we communicate with management to cascade the vision to the other levels within the organization. Then with regard to whistleblowing and reporting mechanism, we do have the National Anti-Corruption Hotline that is manned by the Public Service Commission, and all the matters that comes through from the hotline are prioritized. And to date, we can indicate that 96% of the matters that have been reported have been put through under investigation. And also we do have our Gauteng Ethics Hotline toll-free platform, whereby the officials as well as stakeholders can be able to report, and all the matters that are coming through are being investigated by various stakeholders. So this hotline are actually enabling everybody to be able to report anonymously. With regard to clean governance, we are fully aware that AG has just finalized the audits for 2020-2021 financial year, and are still busy with some few departments, so that we can be able to have the clear picture of what is happening. But however, if we look at the two financial years for 2018 and 2019 and 2019 and 2020, we can say that if we look at the clean audits, for the two financial years, we're sitting at 30% for all the auditors, and for the unqualified with findings, we had about 61%, which is 14 entities, and then 2 entities that have received a disclaimer. And then for the 2019-20, we're sitting with 53%. I think we just regressed a bit because we had 2 entities that actually moved to a qualified with findings. And then we had 1 entity with a disclaimer. And then there's 1 entity that at the time of reporting at the time of AG's reporting, the audit was not yet finalized. So with regard to investigation, just to highlight, as the Mr. Premier has indicated, that we will be reporting on investigations that are done by all the various stakeholders, starting with the Auditor General. Auditor General has been investigating matters to one department, which is 2 investigations that they've done. 1 has been finalized, and then 1 is outstanding. And with regard to the one that is outstanding, that's still in progress in terms of investigating the matter. Then with regard to the SIU on the secondment and proclamation, we've got about 14 matters that they're busy with, 11 complaints that were received that they are actually investigating, and then 3 that were received through the complaints, but then they went directly to the SIU, and then there's 3 proclamations that they've already issued. Then with regard to the Public Service Commission, there's about 77 matters that have been reported to them. This is over and above the matters that are being reported through the National Anti-Corruption Hotline. And 45 of those matters have been finalized. And then we have got about 32 that are still in progress, that are still busy investigating. So if we look at the nature of the cases that are being reported to the Public Service Commission, we can indicate that a majority of the matters relate to HR irregularities that relates to appointments on the HR side. We've got matters that relates to supply chain management irregularities. Maladministration constitute 4%, and then 10% relates to other matters such as service delivery, because they tend to be reported to the Public Service Commission. Then with regard to the public protector, we've got about 25 matters that have been reported to them. 3 have been finalized, and then 22 are still in progress. They're still busy investigating. And then the nature of the matters that are investigating, majority relate to maladministration, the HR irregularities, and also 23% is other matters, because they are also investigating issues that relates to service delivery. Then coming to the Provincial Forensic Investigation Unit, since 2017-18, we have received, to date, we have received 270 matters, and that have gone through the various stages. And we can indicate that there are matters that we have already finalized, we've issued the reports, and then there are matters that are in the execution phase that we are hoping to finalize as soon as possible. And also just to indicate that some of the matters have been, when we say closed at lead, it means that when we receive them, the reports would go to the department, gather information, analyze the information to check whether we need to further do an investigation or not. If at all the information that we've gathered doesn't warrant any further investigation, that it doesn't prove the allegation, then we are able to close the matter. Then this is just to indicate per department where the matters are, and we can indicate that majority of the matters that we are investigating are sitting with the Department of Health, Roads and Transport, and Department of Education, and the Department of Infrastructure Development. And then with regards to the entities, we're just highlighting where the investigations are in the entities, how many we've received, and we can say that majority are with Cradle of Humankind and Nucane. And then also we do receive matters to be investigated through, based on the legislative requirements, that matters can be, that the forensic unit can be instructed to investigate by the MEC of COCTA or the MEC of Provincial Treasury, or sometimes it will be the municipality requesting, council requesting the Provincial Forensic Audit Services to do the investigation. So we're looking at Mirefong and City of Joburg investigations. So I've already indicated the number to say that which ones are the ones that have got quite a number of matters that we're investigating. And then in terms of the nature of the cases that have been reported, we've got majority of the matters are on procurement irregularities, followed by fraud cases, the HR irregularities, mismanagement of funds, and then corruption. On the resolution side, just to analyze, to say that as we finalize the investigations, we do issue the recommendations that needs to be implemented by the departments. And since 2017 to 2021-22, we've got 1,269 recommendations that have been issued based on the reports that have been issued, and about 1,043 recommendations are either fully implemented or are in progress of being implemented. And this constitutes about 82% of the progress made to date in implementing recommendation and remedial actions. And to recover the monies that have been lost, which makes about 600 million, and also to ensure consequence management. And we've got about 17%, which makes about 226 that have not yet been implemented. And the departments that are actually lagging behind is the Department of Health and Social Development, and there are interventions that are being put in place to make sure that the departments are able to implement the recommendations that have not been implemented. And just to indicate that the Premier continues to engage with the MECs and HODs on matters of ethics and anti-corruption, and to fast-track the implementation of outstanding forensic investigation recommendations, and also to make sure that the integrity management continues to monitor progress made by the departments, and also assisting the departments in opening up criminal cases. And just to indicate that the accounting officers have got limited capacity with regard to the implementation of disciplinary processes. So the Office of the Premier, through the Chief Directorate that falls under DDG Buckley, is assisting departments in terms of appointing presiding officers for disciplinary processes, and also to make sure that disciplinary processes are being instituted. And then we've got 147 criminal cases, including 58 that are with the Hawks that we've reported to the Hawks, and then 69 civil claims that have been lodged, and then 517 disciplinary cases, and with 616 million being followed up for recovery. So these slides are just showing the details to show per department where are we. I won't go through this in detail because I've already done it in the summaries. And also just to indicate in terms of the other agencies like the Public Protector, where are we? I've already spoken about them. It's just to indicate in terms of the progress in implementation of the recommendations. So I'll pause here. Thank you, Mr. Premier and Chairperson.
Over to you, Premier. You said you wanted to say something towards the end.
Yes, that's the I'm going through the conclusion, the slides, where we make the point that as the Office of the Premier, we are part of what is called the center of government. And when we report to OCPOL, we always say that there are 3 centers of government in the provincial government, what the departments that are called center of government. The first one is the Office of the Premier. The second one is the Provincial Treasury, and the third one is COCTA. And the centers of government have a responsibility not just to coordinate themselves, but to also do work across the spheres of government and across departments. So in that regard, we are working with as the center of government on matters of ethics and integrity in our province. We are working with the advisory panel of civil society, which is very much part of the organizations that are involved in the various initiatives on dealing with corruption. So organizations such as Corruption Watch, those NGOs that are involved in various initiatives. So they are part of this council. Together with them, we are preparing the State of Ethics and Integrity Promotion Report, the details of which I've referred to. Some of the issues are still being verified with various institutions and agencies that are dealing with them about how far are you with this specific matter. And this report is going to be a public report released at the end of September to inform the people of our province. And those updates will be done by that time, including the work that various departments have been doing, but they have not reported on. That's the first thing. The second thing I would like to say in the conclusion is that we have suffered setbacks, particularly with the COVID-19 corruption, because we have been on a path as a province with all the initiatives we have introduced that Mildred has spoken to, from audit improvements in audit outcomes, as well as the open tender system, e-invoicing, e-procurement, in other words, removing the human factor, as well as these measures, department by department, specific measures, including disclosures or vetting. Even with all those measures that we have been putting in place to institutionalize them so that fraud prevention and ethics and integrity are not individualized. It's not just something of a particular, but they must be institutionalized. So despite all these measures, we have suffered a setback that came sharply through COVID corruption. That moment, that period where the open tender system, as a result of the things we've already said a lot publicly, with the open tender system and the time it takes to do scrutiny and subject processes to scrutiny, was taken advantage of. We have suffered a setback also with the killing of one of our outstanding officials who was a whistleblower, but who was working very closely with the team of officials that work with Mildred in our whole of government, putting all these measures in place, but also working with law enforcement agencies who have suffered a setback because she was killed, Babita Diokaran. Despite all those setbacks, I want to say to SCOPA that our institutional effort to fight corruption, not just by what we say, but by making sure that all these measures we have outlined here around integrity promotion and integrity management, as well as around institutional measures to prevent, to detect, but also to investigate and act on the outcomes of investigations. All those measures we have put in place are a very strong indication, at least even with organizations we work with out there, NGOs, individuals. These measures are the best way to deal with what is a very deep-rooted problem of corruption, where every opportunity is seized upon. And that's also the third bullet point we're making there, that there's always been this over 80% of those recommendations have been either fully implemented, or as we speak, they are in the course of full implementation. In the course of implementation means some of them may be before another body outside the provincial government that's dealing with them. We can't say the matter is resolved. Some of them may be with the court. Some of them may be with the Hawks. We have said that to you. Some of them may be with the SIU and the special tribunal. Some of them may be with lawyers that we have appointed to deal with the matters, to either prosecute if it's a disciplinary matter, or where we have lost money, seek to recover the money. And we're giving, again, Mildred gave the numbers, how many criminal cases out of that, how many civil claims, how many disciplinary cases instituted, and how much these processes seek to recover. And this excludes this 600 million members excludes the one that's being pursued by the SIU. Don't count the SIU one. So this 600 million. So when the SIU has come back to us, we know they have almost 39 companies and individuals that they have obtained a court. The court has granted the SIU essentially the verdict in their favor that you can pursue recovery of. We are not counting that as yet because we're waiting for the SIU to give us an update. They are going to the special tribunal all the time. We will add that one specifically, but the 600 million, over 600 million, has to do with the other cases that exclude the SIU. We want to emphasize, particularly as the Premier, I am absolutely committed to working with all other Chapter 9 institutions, law enforcement agencies, and other institutions of our democracy, such as the Public Service Commission, the Office of the Public Protector, the Auditor General, the Office of the Auditor General, and law enforcement or investigative agencies or recovery agencies like the SIU, the Asset Forfeiture Unit, and the Commercial Crimes Unit of the South African Police Service. All those agencies are part of the entire value chain that we check. So where are you with the case? We know some cases have been there for long. We also, Mildred was saying that, her team is also, because there are some cases that just end up with the NPA and there's really no progress. But now we have an institutionalized mechanism. That team that's led by Mildred's daily job, their daily job is to make sure that these cases are followed up. And that is why we have integrity management unit also in departments, so that we've got somebody in a department whose daily job is to ensure that if our strategy is implemented, matters are followed up. And if a department doesn't implement, I know I will hold the MEC and the HOD accountable. I think lastly, the important point is the work we are doing with the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Council. It is the work of our Executive Council as an institution. Again, it's not just something done by me. I need to say that the one area that has come sharply to the fore is the capacity of the provincial government to protect the whistleblowers. All of you would know that the whistleblower program is under the Department of Justice and Correctional Services. It's a national program. And recently it has become extremely important that people who are working in this phase, in this area that we are reporting to you about, they need protection. And it is a matter of great concern to us. And officials who feel from time to time they report wrongdoing. It may not be corruption, it may be wrong appointments, the issues that the Public Service Commission deals with, who feel victimized. It may be in some instances one type of malfeasance or the other, or nepotism. Those officials have really raised the red flag about the need for protection. And it's a matter we are discussing with national government. So I therefore want to conclude by saying, Chair, what we are presenting to you is an overview, and a very detailed report is being finalized that would paint the picture of the past 5 years. So this is a period of 5 years. Department by department, there are cases that are of great interest, including related to particular departments. Those matters, some of them are before the courts. How we report about them, we ourselves would, from time to time, we get legal advice. But we have closed the gap in our province now between this thing of you do investigations and nothing happens about them. Part of the gap we have closed is that the Provincial Forensic Audit Unit, which, as you will all know, the members who have been there would know, it was under Treasury, used to have a huge backlog of cases. During the 5th administration, the Executive Council members and HODs complained a lot that it is overburdened, and most of them would end up appointing legal lawyers or independent or forensic audit firms on matters that ordinarily would have been been dealt with by either directly by the SIU or something by a particular national agency or something by the Hawks. So we are also strengthening that Provincial Forensic Audit Unit. It has been moved to the Premier's office so that it can work very closely with the Integrity Management Unit. It's one value chain. So that Provincial Forensic Audit Unit is working very closely with this Integrity Management Unit that's led by Mildred. And again, part of what we really want to do is that in the Gauteng Provincial, the whole of Gauteng Provincial government, these matters that if you do wrong doing, it will be detected, and forensic investigations will be instituted. Those forensic investigations recommendations will be implemented. If it's a criminal matter, it will end up there. If it's a civil claims or civil recovery matter, it will also be pursued there. If it's just a disciplinary matter, it will be dealt with there, so that there is certainty in the province. This is a whole of government institutional approach to dealing with matters. What do we want to do, Chair? We want the same system. We're engaging with our colleagues in local government in Gauteng to have this whole of, to cut across so that it is not just one area in a local government, to institute the same regime. Are we there yet? No, we are not there yet. The crooks always make the next plan. When you put in place a plan, the crooks always make the next plan. And that's the sense we have. But it is not going to deter us, Comrade Chair. So thank you very much for the opportunity to brief you on our whole system in dealing with these matters, not just one specific area.
Premier, thank you very much for the presentation and the detailed overview. And sometimes it's difficult to refer to an overview as a detail, but I think it has touched a number of things that you had raised, and the presentation by Ms. Mkopane also helped a lot. As you have indicated, we will look forward to that full detailed report when it's issued, so that you can make up the necessary follow-ups. Let me take this opportunity on behalf of the committee. I know that this has already been done in the legislature, but I think on behalf of SCOPA, to send our condolences to you as Gauteng Provincial Government, and particularly to the family of Babita Diokaran. We really are encouraged that there's still a lot of work and commitment to ensure that we fight corruption, but also ensure that a lot of whistleblowers come forward to assist in dealing with these matters. Let me open up now to members for any comments or questions to the report that is presented by the Premier. Panel members, I'm looking for hands, unless you are saying that the report was so detailed that there are no hands. Honorable Kanyane. Over to you, Honorable Kanyane.
No, I wanted to say the report really was so detailed. And I must really say, indeed, this is a fight against corruption. And one would like really to welcome this initiative from the Office of the Premier. And I think if we really understand this and support this initiative, obviously, also from SCOPA side, it will be something that will really assist in alleviating the problems that we are really facing on a daily basis. And I think that's mainly there to comment the initiative. Maybe the clarity from Mildred is the issue that you raised. There's a slide that you talk about the disclosure. And then that slide where you talk about the disclosure, the culprit there, it is the Department of Transport, where you achieved about 98%. I want you to reconcile it with the slide where you talk about officials that are doing business with the state, with government. I'm not sure how different is that, because when we get to this latest slide, you have sport with 2 from the Premier Office, 1, and they got the warning. So I'm not sure when you talk about the disclosure, is it something else, or is it also disclosing that these officials are doing their business with the state? Just to reconcile the two slides that we've really presented. But again, moving further with this disclosure part, to what extent? Because I know from the presentation from the PSC is that we're not really allowed to do the business with the state. You don't have to do the business with the state if you are there. Now, I think that's the clarity that it should be very clear, because I know if ever one disclosed, the case is closed. And now, to what extent are we really dealing with these issues? So I think that's maybe the second part, just to clarify to what extent it's one really supposed to be disclosing. Yeah, I think that those are the two. But again, also to the Premier, the issue of the lifestyle audit. I know at some point you're very vocal about the executive. I wanted really to know, when is it really coming to us as the MPLs? Because this lifestyle audit, I think it should be approached very in a blanket form. I know the chair is nodding, because maybe Premier, you are parking in the executive when you come to the legislature. You don't come where we are parking in the second floor and see the cars. Yours are compared to nothing. But I'm not saying they bought them. They really they are able to afford that. But I'm just raising it, Premier, to say I think if it's blanket, maybe we'll be able to move closer in dealing with these issues that we are facing. Yeah, just in a nutshell, but just commenting the presentation. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much. Honorable Randall.
Yes, thank you so much, Chair, and good afternoon, Honorable Premier. And thank you so much for the comprehensive presentation. I think it's definitely a move in the right direction. Chairperson, I think Member Kanyani has covered me in terms of the Chairperson, further to that, in terms of blacklisting of service providers, blacklisting portal where service providers are being blacklisted, but we often find these officials being redeployed, and you see them pop up in other provinces, pop up in other municipalities. And I would want to ask how effective, you know, we pump in a lot of money to pay the SIU for reports. Honorable Premier, the other day answered me in terms of outstanding monies owed to the SIU, and it's actually, it's a large amount. And one would hope we are really not, you know, just not stopping where the recommendations are made, but we follow through on that, especially with regards to blacklisting of these officials. Chairperson, then I think we should also have a look at the entities. I know there was a lot now discussed on the departments, but I think entities should be included, definitely. And then in terms of the impact of the POPI Act on the reports and making a public report on the state of the integrity, as the Honourable Premier has stated in the beginning when he was opening the presentation, one would just like to know going forward, how will it hamper and or assist, you know, in getting that trust back from our residents and our voters that their tax money is really and honestly being spent, and that, you know, people who transgress are really taken to court and taken seriously, and we're trying to prevent this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Premier. Let me just also add my question so that when there's a response, it's a response to all of them. Just for your information, Premier, the committee has done an investigation on the expenditure management, particularly on the unauthorized, irregular, fruitless, and wasteful expenditure. It's a report we are finalizing, but preliminary, we can see that one of the biggest problems is the capacity to investigate irregular expenditure and then be able to process it so that it can be condoned. There are departments from preliminary reports that they've got matters that go beyond even 3-4 years. And I'm hoping that it's a matter that your office should be able to assist with or deal with. We expect also that the Gauteng Provincial Treasury would be playing a major role in that. I would appreciate your comment on that. The second matter is the matter of interest to this committee that have to do with preventative measures. And I'm aware that in the presentation that was made, first your comment and also the presentation by Ms. Nkopane was that there are systems that you've put in place on preventative measures. And I think that it will be important to indicate the fact that sometimes dealing with corruption is to deal with the consequences. The bigger emphasis should be on prevention. And I think that, you'll correct me if I'm wrong, and I think I want to hear your comment. The strategy that you are saying your department has, am I correct to say that the approach is to emphasize on integrity? Because if there's no integrity in our systems and we deal just with the outcomes, we might find that there are difficulties. And this is the point that is always raised by the Auditor General, that there's a need for us to focus on issues of prevention. The last two comments, Chair, and maybe some of it is late. I just want to find out, if I heard correctly, I might have misunderstood. You're saying there is a team that you have that also involve the civil society. Can you assume that that team also looks at issues that are beyond just government? And if it's true, I want to hear your comment, what cooperation is there, but if I misunderstood you, I apologize for that. Then lastly, on the audit of COVID-19, the Auditor General has taken a posture to do what they call real-time audit. In other words, from what we understand is that rather than wait until the end of the financial year, they audit immediately. And already 3 reports have been issued, 2 of them about provincial and the national government, but then there's a 3rd one about local government. The issue that I want to ask, it's 2 things. The first is, maybe I would like your comment on whether this real-time audit, are they not helping to ensure that we deal with issues or identify the issues in a short space of time and are able to deal with them? But the second time related to those audits of the Auditor General and your report is whether, I mean, I would have loved to hear your comment on the relationship or the working relationship, if any, between the Office of the Premier and the center that was established by the President. I think it's called the Fusion Center, where some of these things are dealt with and ensure that there's action in that regard. Thank you, Premier. Over to you.
Chair, thank you so much. And thank you to members, Member Kanyani and Member Randall, who have made their comments. I want to start by asking both the acting DG and Ms. Mildred Nkopane to comment and respond in the sense of some of the comments you have made or questions, and then I will conclude. I can't agree more with you, honorable members, that this kind of work is extremely important. And sometimes it can be very tempting to go for things that make headlines rather than put in place proper institutions that will last for longer. To change also the culture. To change the culture, you need proper institutions that are sound, but also policies backed by strong structures and institutions. So I would like, DG, let me start with you because Mildred gave the report. Let me start with the acting DG, and then Mildred will also respond to the question about cooperation with Fusion, which is something she will deal with. Acting DG, Masebe.
Okay, thank you, Premier, and good morning, Chairperson and members. Obviously, the issue of prevention, all of us would like to see that we have systems and everybody follows the controls to ensure that we prevent fraud and corruption, and that everybody conducts their businesses in line with the regulations and so on. Supply chain processes are done in line with regulations, but obviously we are not there yet. That's the ideal that all of us want to see, that there's no fraud and corruption. But because we are not there yet and we're still dealing with the systems, we also have to be prepared that when things go wrong, we are able to detect them early on so that we prevent loss of state assets or resources. Then obviously there are instances where by the time we act, the damage has already happened, that people have already stolen money and so on. And when that happens, we have to conduct proper investigations. And when the investigations are concluded, we have to ensure that there's consequence management, that we act against any of those officials that are found to have been involved in fraud and corruption, while at the same time we deal with the referral for criminal investigation, as well as initiate civil claims to recover any money that may have been lost in the process. I'm saying we do all of these things, and now all of them are important. Obviously, the ideal would have been that the prevention works perfectly so that we don't have to spend money on investigations, because yes, indeed, the amount of money that we spend conducting forensic investigations is huge. And I agree that with that amount of money, it is important that we act, that we follow through all the processes right up to the end. So if disciplinary processes have to take place, yes, we do. But of course, all these disciplinary processes are also, as Mildred did indicate, led by independent or presided over by independent presiding officers, so that at the end, we are able to deal with credible disciplinary processes where everybody will have had a fair chance. But yes, the important thing, and that is what we're emphasizing now from the Office of the Premier, to ensure that all of these 4 elements, prevention, detection, investigation, and follow-up or action on the investigations are done. And as I said, all of them are important, but of course, with time, when the culture of ethics sets in, I hope that we will be able to have a situation where we spend less money on investigations, but rather spend more money on strengthening the systems and ensuring that all the control measures work to a point that we're able to prevent fraud and corruption. Yeah, that's what I can say, Chairperson. I'm sure Mildred will deal with the others. Thank you.
Thank you. Over to you, Mildred.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, I'm going to start with the questions that were asked earlier on by Member Kanyane with regard to the financial disclosures, just to indicate the difference between the two slides. Firstly, the issue of the financial disclosures is in line with the Public Service Regulation on Chapter 2 from 16A to 21D that talks about the disclosure of financial interest by the officials of government. And that starts with the SMS. So that is done on an annual basis, whereby all the senior managers within a government have to disclose their financial interest. So that process is actually driven by the DPSA, and then the Public Service Commission will analyze those disclosures for all the SMS. And then as part of that report, they'll indicate what are the issues that relates to the disclosures. Then with regard to the slide that talks to the doing business with the organs of state, that is also governed by the Public Service Regulation as well as the PAMA Act, because the Public Service Regulation and the PAMA Act prohibits individual from doing business with the organs of state. So what is the relationship between the two? If during the disclosures and the analysis is being done by the Public Service Commission, they identify an official who has done business with any organ of state, then they can be able to write to the province to say that this official has done business with the organs of state, and then we'll do further investigation, and then from there necessary measures are being taken. So because the officials are prohibited from doing business with the organs of state, the ones that we are referring to say that warning letters have been issued is that you'll find that these officials at the time when they were doing business with the state, it was before the promulgation of the PAMA Act to say that it is fully prohibited and it's criminal. So what the departments are doing now is that if there's any that is being identified and after the investigation, it is proven that the person has done business with the organs of state, based on the guidelines from DPSA, they should be that official needs to be dismissed. And secondly, we need to open up a criminal case based on the PAMA Act. And also we need to make sure that we recover the money. So the ones that we are highlighting are the ones that that we're operating during the period where we had the period where people could resign from doing business with the state. So hence there were disciplinaries that were issued against those. So going forward, we'll start to see the reports where if at all we find any official that has been doing business with the organs of state, we'll start to see the report indicating what has been done by each department. But because from our side, we are making sure that they need to follow what the prescript says in terms of dealing with the matter. Then with regard to the issue of blacklisting of officials and service providers, the blacklisting of service providers, that list is actually with National Treasury. So from our side, what we normally do is that after the investigation, we do give we do work with the department and the Treasury in terms of giving them a redacted report on a specific service provider for them to be able to blacklist, because they are unable to blacklist without getting all the details from our side to say that indeed, based on the outcome of the investigation, the service provider has to be blacklisted. Then in relation to the officials that normally after they've been found implicated in an investigation, then they resign. What we do is that should that employee pop up in another department, then that file gets transferred to that particular department for them to institute disciplinary processes. I think we have received some in the province, and also we've referred some as well that needs to be instituted in other entities of government. So we do follow up on that. And with regard to entities, I think included in the report was the issue of the investigations that we're doing of the entities as the matters are being reported to us. Then the other aspect that relates to the UIFW, to say that there isn't a capacity in the departments to investigate irregular expenditure. So what we are starting to do from our side is to capacitate the risk and ethics units within departments to be able to do the investigation, so that they can be able to deal with the backlog that they have, because one of the key things that we're doing is to say to them, they need to start to analyze those UIFW and make sure that there is investigation that happens. So once they've been fully capacitated, then they can be able to start to do full investigation. I know that most of them are in like the bigger departments, so that they can be able to recommend to the accounting officers in terms of measures to be taken, as well as to apply for condonation where it requires a condonation to be undertaken. But Provincial Treasury is also working under the Office of the PAG, is also working with the departments in this regard, because the issue of condonation initially was sitting with a National Treasury, and then it has been devolved to the Provincial Treasury to assist. So it's under the Office of the Provincial Accountant General. Then with regard to the issue, the relationship that we have with the Fusion Center, what we've started on from our side is that because the Fusion Center is made up of various institutions that are actually fighting corruption, and those that have got access to a very sensitive information such as your FIC. So what we've done through the Gauteng Ethics Advisory Council is to start to engage these entities individually, because there are legislation that are actually that are governing these institutions, such as the FIC, as well as the NDPP. So what we've started is to engage them to sign MOUs so that they can be able to share information with us, because they can't be sharing information with us. Like, for instance, if we talk about the Fusion Center, they're able to see transaction, follow the money. So for them to be able to give us that information as we do the investigation, we have to have a formal agreement between ourselves. So we've already started with the engagement. They've given us information in terms of what they need to check whether they can be able to grant us access to certain information. So that is in progress. We're hoping that they will be able to do so, because there are certain requirements, like, for instance, for us to get information from the Fusion Center, which means our forensic investigation unit has to be, in terms of law, have the authority to be an investigator. That is why they're able to give information to the SIU, because there's a legislation that applies to SIU. So from our side, we've given them the information in terms of the establishment of the forensic investigation unit by the province, and then we are waiting for them to tell us whether, based on the resolutions or the documents that we have to establish, that they can be able to give us information that we require. We can be able to work directly with them. So I think I've covered most of the question. I'll pause here. Thank you.
Thank you. Over to you, Premier.
Thank you very much, Chair. Again, I did say that we appreciate the inputs of members. You are all saying this is a step in the right direction. It is something that we need to step up. I will deal with very specific issues raised by honorable members. Firstly, Honorable Kanyani, I think on the officials doing with business, Mildred has covered me a great deal. On the road ahead and the need to change the culture, but also build institutions, DG was able to emphasize why the feeling we have. In fact, when we interact with this body, it's called the GEAC, the Gauteng Ethics and Anti-Corruption Advisory Council. The feeling we have, often they say, so I, for example, I said to them, you know, the wrong things that have happened during COVID almost make us feel like all the efforts we have put in place over a 5-year period have been undermined. We kind of feel defeated. I use the phrase, I feel we have been defeated by the corrupt. They really won the battle. We plan this way, we put measures in place, they meet in corners, they erode the system, they find officials in government, we have vetting, we have all these other things. We have road speed traps, the officials are able to go through. And the advice that was given by members of this body Honorable Chair, was that, and that includes the, David Lewis, who is the Corruption Watch main champion. As you know, they audit everything, they investigate corruption in various government departments. The advice was no, Premier, the road, you have to invest in this change of culture and putting in place institutions, and that it may take some time. Don't feel that because there's been, the crooks have had their day, that all the things that we are, because they are working with us, and I'm going to explain, Honorable Kanyile, because you asked the question, I'm going to explain. They don't do only work with us as government. They work with they also have run sessions for private sector, officials in government, private sector, trade unions on ethics and integrity, and explaining to them what their role is and what kind of Gauteng they are contributing to. That they are watching government, but they are also watching those who do business with government and the private sector, corruption in the private sector. So they have had sessions, they've had workshops, they've had the various professions, they have had called professions, various professional bodies, Gauteng-based professional bodies, to come to sessions with them and sign what is called the integrity pledge. But not only pledge, but looking at how people who are running businesses themselves and people who are in government, how you have to mount an institutional and cultural offensive. I use that cultural because if you don't change the culture, if there's a culture of fear and a culture of the guys at the top can get away with it, they are looting at the top, so we too can loot. That culture sinks to even the lowest official. Who, if the lowest official knows that by my seniors are looting, that lowest official will do the same. And they were saying that to achieve this goal, you need to have a mount. The battle must continue. Don't give up when there's one case, one incident, or there's another incident there. We must just continue to persist on building strong mechanisms and strong partnerships and strong collaboration to catch, to prevent. If you can't prevent, you must detect it when it happens. And if you detect it, you must investigate it. And when you have investigated it, people must know the consequences are severe. And the Gauteng Ethics and Anti-Corruption Advisory Committee or Council, it's called Council, works with us, the Honorable Kanyile, across the different value chains. It works with provincial government, it works with municipalities, it works with the trade unions themselves are brought in there across the different trade unions. And as I said, business and the professional bodies, because corruption is a societal problem. It may be happening a lot in government, and some things, ethical breakdowns are not around corruption and looting, but it's like this thing of giving a police officer a cold drink, and daily cold drink, because you were driving fast, they stopped you, and then when they stopped you, you have broken the law, you know. But daily cold drink, they are asking for a cold drink. They say it starts like that. Tomorrow they'll ask for 200 rands or 500 rands or 1,000 rands. And you who feel vulnerable because you have broken the law, if you do it with a cold drink, you are going to do it with 1,000 rand, and there's no return. It will be the police tomorrow with making sure the dockets disappear, and then it becomes a societal institution. We reach a level where everybody knows corruption is happening, and so everybody knows they will pay a bribe. And they say everybody is doing it. And that's a very dangerous place to be in. And I must say, fortunately, we are not in that situation in the province. There are still very ethical officials who want to follow the book, who want to follow, but there are red lights that we must not allow. Honorable Kanyani, doing business with the. Let me give you an example. There's an official in the office of the Premier, because I'm the head of the office there politically. When the report came, when we look at all the departments, there was a period where there was like 3-4 officials reported by the public service as doing business with the state. I asked the DG, give me the names of these officials. They are doing business with the state in my office. Firstly, it's unlawful. And secondly, we talk about these things all the time. When we checked, we found that sometimes doing business with the state may simply mean you are a member of a body. And I'll tell you, the former DG, member of a board of Sopindile Valeni, was said to be doing business with, when I asked for her report, she was one of those on the list. She said, Premier, I sit in training, the SITAs. I sit in a SITA that deals with this area. I sit there, I don't earn a cent. I'm not being paid for sitting there. I sit in there, or I sit at Wits University on your behalf in the University Council. That can be picked up by the system of the Public Service Commission as doing business with the state. So you can't fire someone for that. You can't fire them. And when you check the declaration, so did they declare that those? And in some instances, you find that they did. In some instances, they are quarreling with the Public Service Commission on the classification. Another official in my office, and that official was representing military veterans, and then the military veterans formed a military veterans entity. It's not representing himself. They have not tendered for work with the provincial government. But when that official joined the provincial government team, as we have with the unit there that deals with military veterans, that official every year is classified as doing business with the state. And I had to call that official myself, quite upset. You continue to do business with our government, and least of all, I expect that, and he explained to me, the official, that no, I am not doing business with the government, but I sit in the body. I'm fixing this. It is something in all my declarations, but I was sitting on behalf of military veterans in an entity they established. And I understand now that I am I'm an official in government. I can't do that. So I'm explaining that for colleagues to also understand. That's why some of those things you do warning. It's not like somebody was doing what is referred to correctly as unlawful. You look at it, but anyone who indeed has gone into that's no longer allowed, because we have passed those regulations. To do business not allowed. And Mildred explained another. Others would have been, before it was disallowed. It was just about declaring. You must declare. And professionals, they are professionals by virtue of their professional job, by their training. You find it a lot in healthcare. You find it a lot in engineering. By the nature of their training, that they just have to declare that they are trained in a particular area of specialty. And they are part of certain bodies that it can easily be said they are, having business interest, or they are not declaring. The main things that they need to declare, including the professional bodies that they are part of, that by virtue of their professions. So we are really combing through this thing of doing business with the state. And every time where I look at the numbers are very high, I just say to the team in my office, that HOD must be brought here to say, who are these people? What type of business is it? So we are cleaning up, basically. I think so. The disclosures help, but some disclosures don't deal with everything. Lifestyle audits, Honorable Kanyani, is an exciting idea, but we need the legislature to pass that. You don't want it to. I have already said it in the legislature. We need the legislature to say the lifestyle audits should be done on public officials, on all public officials. And I really don't want to talk about what you were talking about, the cars people drive. But the good thing with it is that it will just restore public confidence. Every single one, a councillor who's not even in the executive, on the ground, people know that councillor as the person running tenders. Even if that councillor does not sit in any tender committee, you yourselves as MPLs, people know you as government. They don't know that you are a public representative, you are not in the administration. And half the time when there's doubt and there's ethical concerns about government, and I think it will help a lot. I just think it will enhance, as I say, and I don't believe that MPLs really can be getting dishing out tenders or building relationships with business people, because what would you offer them? The real risk is with those of us who sit in the executive and people in the administration, the officials in the administration who preside over the processes, and us, the political people. So I support very much the lifestyle audits being extended. We say in the report that we want the lifestyle, or not just vetting, we want the lifestyle audits to extend to the CEOs of agencies and their senior executives. It's true, they sometimes are hidden there. We do departments only, so we want to do that. Honorable Randall, we will do that. We will bring them into the loop. And we appreciate that you all say we are moving in the right direction. Mildred has answered the question on those who resign. We have lots of government officials who, when the disciplinary or investigation process starts, they resign. Sometimes they collude with people inside. I can tell you where I knew that there's no way this official would have known that we are about to do an investigation. And we were even saying there must be suspension, and except that it came from the top. The people who we're talking to are the top in that particular department. And suddenly an official resigns. You then see that this official has got the connection with the political or administrative leadership. How did they know that we were about to institute an investigation or to suspend them? And they resign in advance. And they think they'll get away with it. It is no longer like that. So the investigations end up with all the value chains, including the criminal, whether someone is still in government or not. Even if you run to another government department. Recently, I have had an experience where our investigations were done with previous senior officials of departments, and they pitched somewhere having applied for a job. And that information was sent back to us about, and we said, yes, we investigated this official. This is the file. And that official had to take up issues with that investigation. But the point is to understand that they can't run to national government. If you are already in national government, as Mildred says, we have recently sent files to national departments to say, so-and-so who's appointed in your department has run away from a case, or you appointed them before we completed the investigation. Put them before a disciplinary process. It happens also in municipalities, But I think that's where we need cooperation to strengthen the processes. I am convinced that this institutionalized approach that lives beyond the individuals, that is a system, is sound institutions beyond strong individuals, is what we need to build, so that individuals don't change the systems to fit them. You need a Gauteng government across the board that works to achieve our vision of a more ethical administration and clean governance, but more capable developmental state. So there's no way for officials to run to. These things of blacklisting would also help with regard to businesses, because it's true, there are also service providers who go to other areas, do business, when in fact an investigation has found in the province that they did unethical things. But with businesses, we can't do anything. We can't discipline them. We must hand the matter over to the law, the authorities, law enforcement agencies, and I think fusion will help a great deal. Mildred was explaining the institutional relationship that they're building. I am not involved in investigations, Comrade Chair. I'm saying Comrade Chair, Chairperson. My apology, because this is a SCOPA meeting. I am not involved. I want to clarify, because once I am involved, I don't choose what must be investigated. No, this comes from processes, the AG's report, the Public Service Commission, the Provincial Audit services, or whistleblowers, the hotlines, or the special things get. So all I have to do is to make sure that when wrong, or if I pick up, people come to me and say wrongdoing, I put it into a process. It must be investigated. It must not be hidden. But I can't decide who must be investigated or which case must be investigated or not. That will be very dangerous. That's why you need systems. You need systems to detect, and you also need systems to investigate, independent of political and administrative people. And that we must emphasize, because otherwise it can be, you can have abuse of those processes. But I must make sure that these things are followed up. I can't turn a blind eye to things that have been, where whistleblowers have come to the fore, or where a body like the AG says you must investigate. In their audit, they found that processes were not followed, but they are not saying there's corruption. They say there must be a forensic investigation on this matter. We do that. And that's why we bring other agencies to do that type of work. Honorable Randall says, going forward, would you consider releasing these reports more regularly? I'll tell you what we want to do, Honorable Randall. We have been looking at a 5-year period, but our intention is that when investigations are done and completed, we shouldn't wait until we have a consolidation that we are doing here. You can do it after 5 years, put together a report, but we want each forensic investigation report to also be released immediately once it is done, except where the nature of the forensic investigation is that it has a bearing on the disciplinary process immediately, or it has a bearing on a court process or a tribunal, or a matter that may still need further investigation because people tend to challenge these reports even before the value chain is followed, because sometimes you find that the report is not tight. I have seen forensic investigation reports that are having a disclaimer. You can't use this report in court. And one of the reasons we were unhappy with the performance of the Provincial Audit Services was that every time it appointed external service providers, they come with reports that have disclaimers. What's the reason to appoint a forensic or audit firm if they are going to tell you you can't use their report to go to court? Then you have paid money for what? That is why for us with the SIU, even with the money, the SIU knows when they do a report, they must be prepared to go all the way to court, to the tribunal, special tribunal, and we must use their report in a disciplinary process. So we can't appoint you as an investigation team or firm. Then you come with a report that says, no, Honorable Kanyile has not followed procedure, but you say you can't use that report to discipline Honorable Kanyile. It's a waste of money. We had lots of such reports which were done by the forensic audit services, and we are strengthening them. They must know if you appoint an audit firm or if you appoint an advocate to do an investigation on malfeasance or on corruption, the consequences of that report is that it must withstand the court of law or the disciplinary processes. So that we don't just do investigations to waste money. That is why we will be very, very willing to release those reports. But our legal teams must first look at the report and ensure that maybe certain things in the report that are still subject to further investigation must not be included, because you don't want people to come and say, go to High Court and say they have falsely implicated me. And you know, we are a law-governed society. In South Africa, people litigate at the slightest provocation. And maybe it's a good thing, and that we've got such independent judiciary that everyone who feels aggrieved goes to court. So that is why these investigation reports, you can't just release them without thinking about what the bearing of it will be on a case that is before a process. But I agree, Honorable Randall, that making them public at the right time, and you don't keep them, all of them, until you have completed all of them, will earn us to enhance public trust, even for public representatives, not just for those in government, but even yourselves. As I said, everybody thinks that even if you are a public representative, you control tenders. So when we deal with corruption and when there are consequences, it does enhance public trust. So I really, really agree with that. But just bear in mind this thing, that my qualification is that you have other processes which must not be prejudiced by a release of a report, because otherwise you lose a case when you are still doing a further investigation, but you have already released this report and these guys go to court, they go to a court of law, and that court of law slams you out. You were still going to get to evidence, but they stop you completely to say that, no, you have falsely accused somebody. We don't want to falsely accuse people, but these reports must really send a strong message there. Honorable Kanyile, on the SCOPA work you have done, I really want, when you are free to share with us that report on unauthorized, wasteful and irregular expenditure. I would like to look at this to see how it can help us to strengthen, because irregular expenditure, it's a problem. Unauthorized expenditure is a problem. Wasteful expenditure is a problem. But we all know that they don't quite mean corruption. They may mean in some instances, a process was not followed, which was supposed to be followed. But you can account to the work that was done. And that's why you need those condonations to be followed. And those, so if that is not followed, and our team in the office, and I don't want to overburden the integrity management unit, DDG Bartley and DG Masebe, can we look at this issue that is being raised? And we may want to get our finance team to work with Treasury, as I say, instead of overburdening the integrity unit on these issues around what is coming from SCOPA, this report they have done. And how do we fast track the condonations that do not mean that there was corrupt deals, but there was money spent not in accordance or not as approved by the budget. And that can be explained. That's why this report can be approved. They can come before the relevant bodies of our legislature, and the legislature does the authorizations. Where there's a good explanation. The AG also does that. When the AG does the audit, that team is able to say, we accept what your explanation is. So you're able to, in the audit, for these things to be dealt with. But we still want to go back to clean audits, increasing the number of clean audits, including, I've said to MEC Maile that the team in COCTA needs to have a unit, and he said he has been looking at what the Western Cape has done. He's going to set up to have a unit that just focuses on helping municipalities to do compliance on audits. And he was saying that he has looked at what the Western Cape has done. It's basically that this thing is about standing, making sure the officials have support, but they do the basic things. And this is not headache stuff. There's nothing major. They just do follow procedures. So MEC Maile said to me that he's going to set up a unit in COCTA with regard to municipal compliance, audit outcomes, but also dealing with, because from a point of view of dealing with corruption, it's the same machinery. We want to cultivate this institutional approach in local government. Real-time audits, Honorable Kanyile, I think you feel very, very strongly that the real-time audits can go a long way. I haven't yet applied. I haven't studied very closely. You say that this AG's real-time audits that were done on COVID-19 could become very, very useful. And I would like an opportunity to look at that, to see how this can be helpful to achieve our goals, prevent wastage, prevent irregular and unauthorized expenditure, but prevent corruption and loss of money. And it may be something that we may want to take up DG with the AG, and also one must have an opportunity to understand the positive impact they have made, these real-time audits, so we can apply them broadly. Collaboration with Fusion, I think Mildred has dealt with it fully. So we will, when we release the full report, you will definitely have access to it. But colleagues, I think this is a fight. There's nothing less than a fight. And there'll be lots of pushback. I can tell you, hear it from me, intimidation of those who are in the forefront, officials, intimidation, and we have seen, including murder. That's why whistleblowers and people, not just witnesses, people working sensitively on these issues need minimum security standards, protection. But there will also be other tactics and tricks. When people know that there's 2-3 things that are coming their way, they start throwing all kinds of things in the public media space. Some of us are so used to accusations that are baseless being thrown at us. And you know, the reason they are doing this is because they know there's something big coming their way. Plant, work with the pseudo-journalists and the social media people to start planting stories. I will not be deterred. I will not be defocused, sidetracked from the work that we are leading to do in government. All I know is when people accuse you, if it is true, it will be proven that you yourself are involved in wrongdoing. But if it's not true, you focus on the work that needs to be done. All one knows is that there will be lots of pushback. There will be lots of fightback. There'll be lots of attempt to move us away from doing this work. We are not going to be shifted, whether it's on PPE, corruption, or all other acts of corruption. We are not going to be sidetracked by being made kind of targets of disinformation campaigns, Chair. I can assure you, I sleep peacefully, not worrying that there's something wrong I did, not worrying that I've asked officials in the department of this department to do wrong things or appoint business people. Any business person who know me, and there are many, I always say to them, if you are made of the right stuff, you must go and put your job according to processes. You must be appointed. If you are not appointed, it means you are not good enough. If you are not appointed because there's corruption, expose that corruption. You are not going to be appointed because you know me. It will not happen in Gauteng. And a lot of business people come to me to complain, but we know other business people getting raw deals by doing wrong things. I say to them, you have to expose that, because if you don't, you are part of it. And our system will catch you in that way. So we will continue to do what we need to do, Comrade Chair and comrades, members of SCOPA, from you to Randall to Mpapa. You are comrades in this battle against corruption and for clean governance. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Premier, thank you very much for that extensive response. I must say that we are committing ourselves. In fact, that's what the committee said when we started this investigation on the UIA and the unauthorized, irregular, fruitless, and wasteful expenditure, that we want to find out where the problems are and then be able to make necessary recommendations. So yes, we will share the report with you. We think that it will be ready after we've gone through the analysis of the Auditor General's reports on the various annual financial statements for the period ending the end of March this year. So that's what we'll be considering in the next month or so. Let me just indicate, Premier, that as part of our process, so moving forward from here, now that you've given us this report, we will then, it has empowered us to be able to look at the report of the Auditor General in detail. You'll remember that the Auditor General does report on work that has been done in each department. We'll be able then to make necessary follow-up on that. And we think that the report you've given us today will help us in finalizing this and understanding some of the things and some of the processes where they are. So thank you very much for that. I would like to say that if you and the team want to log off, you can do so, but you will know, Premier, that the meetings of committees of the legislature are open to anyone, so you can remain. Unfortunately, we are going to be finishing in the next 20-30 minutes. So if you want to log off now, yes, you can, but if you want to stay and see what you are also dealing with, it's fine. Thank you very much, Premier, and thank you very much to the team from your office.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I think we should leave you with the legislature is an independent institution, so we should leave you in peace. But we really appreciate all these engagements, and we hope that we'll continue to work together, and we are interested in what you are doing. And when you're picking up issues from our departments, we need a way to get, as the center of government, to get that feedback from SCOPA, that overview from SCOPA that says, Department A needs your attention. Department B is drifting in the wrong direction. So please feel free to do that. We wish we could be part of all your meetings, but we can't. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, let's move on then to the next item in our agenda. We're still dealing with our assessment of the responses of the various departments to the Auditor General's report of the previous financial year. We will try and move, because our meeting is supposed to end, according to our agenda, are supposed to end by 25 to 2. So we'll make sure that we finish the meeting by then. The reports we won't be able to finalize today. We'll carry them over to the next meeting. Would that be fine, honorable members?
Happiness, Chair.
Thank you. I like that happiness. Thank you very much.
It's okay.
Yes, thank you, Honorable Kanyane. Let's move on then to the next report. I think the next report, according to the agenda, is on roads and transport. Over to you, Lerato.
Thank you, Chair. The next report is on roads and transport, and I will start with the summary. As it relates to the House resolutions emanating from the Gauteng Department of Roads and Transport annual report of the 2019-20 financial year, there was a total of 11 House resolutions, of which 5 were recommended to be closed and 6 were recommended to remain open. The first House resolution emanates from the audit finding of compliance with laws and regulations, conditional grants. The content of the House resolution is that the department must submit a plan to evaluate the performance of the programs funded by the Public Transport Operations Grant, which will from here on be referred to as PTOG, by the 31st of July 2021. This plan must include the assessment of its effect in the 2020-2021 financial year. The department responded, and the researcher's analysis, starting at the bottom of page 2, is that the department indicated that they have put measures in place to evaluate the performance of the programs funded by the Public Transport Operations Grant. Moreover, the department indicated that it will ensure that the development of public transport services to be subsidized are in line with all relevant legislations. It will submit monthly performance report to National Department of Transport on the PTOG expenditure. Moreover, the implementation of an electronic monitoring system to provide real-time operation information and to supervise, monitor, and certify the correctness of the operator's payment certificate by appointed supervisory monitoring firms. New subsidized contracts put out on tender to improve service quality. The model tender contract document contains revised high penalties that will force subsidized bus operators to comply to their contractual obligation, and the contract rates for new contracts are likely to cost between 30 Rand per kilometers to 52 Rand per kilometer, resulting in full expenditure of the PTOG. The department further highlighted that in terms of assessment of performance in the 2020-2021 financial year, the operation of the bus contracts was reduced due to the lockdown and the reduction of ridership. Moreover, a high amount of under expenditure in the financial year 2020-2021 because of the impact of the COVID-19, and the province paid 60% of the standing kilometers for services that were not operated and 40% of subsidy added to the high amount of under expenditure. The resolution has been adequately responded to by the department, and therefore the researcher's recommendation is that the resolution is recommended to be closed. The second House resolution stems from the audit finding compliance with laws and regulations, annual financial statements, performance report, and annual report. The content of the House resolution is that the department must submit to the committee a plan on how they would conduct a comprehensive review of annual financial statements prior to submission for auditing, and provide supporting documentation on time to the auditors for auditing by the 31st of July 2021. The department responded, and in the middle of page 3 is the researcher's analysis. The department highlighted the process followed, which ensured the preparation of the comprehensive financial statements. This process includes preparing and submitting monthly financial reporting compliance reports to the Provincial Treasury for further analysis and recommendations. Department also prepares financial statements on a monthly basis with the sole objective of detecting, identifying, and correcting any form of inadequate or inaccurate financial reporting. The department also prepares and submits quality and interim financial statements to the Gauteng Provincial Treasury. The department further undertakes analysis, reviews, and respective confirmations before finalizing the preparation of the annual financial statements. The department further indicated that it has plans to capacitate the finance department. It is not clear in the department's response whether the above-mentioned capacity is in the form of additional staff members in the unit or through the training and development of the existing staff members. The resolution, however, has been adequately responded to by the department, and the research recommendation is that it should be closed. The third House resolution stems from the audit finding compliance and with laws and regulations, strategic planning and performance management. The content of the House resolution is that the department must provide the committee with a report detailing the effectiveness of the system put in place to manage progress against achieving the targets and making sure that the accurate and complete records are kept, amongst other things, for audit purposes by the 31st of July 2021 and every quarter continuing up until the end of June 2022. The department responded, and the researcher's analysis starts at the top of page 6. The department emphasized that it has put measures in place to manage progress against achieving the targets and making sure that accurate and complete records are kept, amongst other things, for audit purposes. These measures include the preparation of medium-term expenditure framework, budget that is aligned and supportive of the deliverables contained in the department's strategic plan and annual performance plan, weekly and monthly monitoring and reporting on the progress the financial performance to executive management in the department to facilitate quality decision-making, routine internal controls limiting the procurement of goods and services to available funding, monthly financial performance compliance reporting to the Provincial Treasury. Moreover, the inclusion of key applicable outputs and outcomes in the performance agreements of relevant financial managers. The resolution has been adequately responded to by the department, and it is recommended by the researchers that the resolution be closed. The next House resolution emanates from the audit finding predetermined objectives. The content of the House resolution is that the department must provide the committee with a progress report detailing the effectiveness of the systems put in place to manage progress against achieving the targets related to Program 3, which is transport operations, by the 31st of July 2021, and a quarterly progress report continuing up until the end of June 2022. The department responded, and the researcher's analysis is in the middle of page 7. The researcher's analysis is that although the department has provided a response, the response provided speaks to plans in place and not necessarily a progress report detailing the effectiveness of the systems in place to manage the progress against the achieving the targets relating to Program 3, which was what was requested by the committee. The resolution has therefore not been adequately responded to by the department. The research recommendation or position is that it is recommended that the resolution remain open until the department responds to the resolution correctly. The next audit finding is in relation to the next House resolution, is in relation to the audit finding material uncertainties related to contingent liabilities. The content of the House resolution is that the department must submit quarterly progress report on the finalization of the lawsuits reported for the period 31st March 2020 by the 31st of July 2021, and every quarter continuing up until the finalization thereof. The department responded in a tabulated form, and in the middle of page 8 is the researcher's analysis. In the research analysis, we state that the department indicated that at the time of responding or reporting, it had settled 529 claims. However, the department did not indicate in their response what the overall number of claims were. Therefore, it would be difficult for the committee to assess whether the department is making progress in this regard. The resolution has, however, been responded to by the department, and the researcher's recommendation or position is that it is recommended that the resolution remain open and that the department is asked to provide a clearer breakdown of lawsuits, detailing the number of lawsuits, the reason, as well as the age analysis thereof. The next House resolution is House Resolution number 6, emanating from the audit finding material uncertainties, also related to contingent liabilities. The content of the House resolution is that the department must investigate alternative measures to reduce the occurrence of lawsuits and submit the plan to the committee by the 31st of July 2021. The department responded, and the researcher's analysis is in the middle of page 9. In the researcher's analysis, it is stated that the department provided measures that they've put in place that seem viable in the pursuit of reducing lawsuits. Cases were reviewed, my apologies, by the state attorney, and matters that were dormant for a very long time, and there was no evidence that the plaintiff is no longer pursuing. There was evidence rather that the plaintiff is no longer pursuing in the matter were closed off. This resulted in a huge decrease of the contingency liability. The department is reviewing the case register, assessing the merits of each case, and on the basis of cost versus benefit analysis, including impact analysis, deciding on the most appropriate as well as effective costs, cost-effective ways of resolving the cases. The roads and infrastructure have committed to taking reasonable steps to maintain provincial roads in order to minimize lawsuits. They have outsourced routine maintenance service providers that have been appointed to maintain the provincial roads on a daily basis. And provision has been made that if there are any lawsuit claims, the service providers will be held responsible for the damages. Moreover, the HOD has secured the services of the Chief Litigation Officer, in the Office of the Premier to advise on 20 high-profile matters that are capable of being settled, and the department is strengthening the implementation of consequence management to ensure that officials are responsible for legal cases that could have been avoided, and those officials are held accountable for their actions. The resolution has been adequately responded to by the department, and therefore it is recommended that the resolution be closed. The next House resolution emanates from the audit finding of underspending of the vote. The content of the House resolution is that the department must provide the committee with a progress report detailing the status of issues pertaining to a national policy change or overall funding shortfall which have been addressed at the level of the National Department of Transport by the 31st of July 2021 and every quarter continuing until finalization thereof. The researcher's analysis in this regard is that the department indicated that the National Department of Transport has not updated the provinces on the merging of Public Transport Operation Grant and the Public Transport Network Grant to alleviate shortfall in road-based public transport operations. The resolution was therefore adequately responded to. However, the resolution should remain open until the National Department has updated provinces and the department are able to respond to that resolution. And then the next House resolution, the content of the House resolution is also from the audit finding and the spending of the vote. The content of the House resolution is that the department must provide the committee with a progress report detailing the status of the reviewing of the organizational structure by the 31st of July 2021 and every quarter continuing up until the finalization thereof. The researcher's analysis is that in its response, the department stated that it is still waiting for an update from the Office of the Premier with regards to the organizational structure. The resolution was adequately responded to. The researcher's recommendation is that the resolution should remain open until the structure is updated from the Office of the Premier. And then as it relates to resolution number 9, the resolution stems from the audit finding and underspending of the vote as well. The content of the House resolution is that the department must provide the committee with a progress report detailing the status of the open tender process by the 31st of July 2021 and the quarterly progress continuing up until the finalization thereof. The department provided a summary of the status of the open tender as of the 30th of June, as well as the progress report on the tenders as of the 30th of June, scrolling down right down to page 18, the department provided a tabulated response. And then going further down, when you go to the researcher's analysis, in the researcher's researchers analysis, the department provided the committee with a progress report detailing the open tender, and below is a summary of the status of the open tenders as of the 30th of June. And we also stated that the resolution is adequately responded to. So in the response, they've indicated a summary of the bid specifications, as well as the publication, the bid evaluation, the bid adjudication, as well as the bids awarded, as well as new projects not yet actioned in the SCM. Therefore, it is recommended that the resolution be closed. And then the next House resolution stems from the audit finding of investigations. The content of the House resolution is that the department provides the committee with a progress report detailing the status of the investigation by the 31st of July 2021 and a quarterly progress report continuing up until the finalization thereof. The department responded and requested that we refer to an annexure. However, in the researcher's analysis, it is stated that the resolution, my apologies, has not been adequately responded to, as the department did not provide the said annexure, and therefore it is recommended that the resolution remain open. And then in terms of the reporting period, the content of the House resolution is that the department must submit its audit action plans indicating the following: each area of finding by the AGSA in the 2019-20 financial year, planned by the department to address the area of finding, time frame and progress of implementation as at the 31st of March 2021. The department must thereafter submit quarterly progress on the implementation of the audit action plans for the 2020-2021 financial year until the 30th of October 2021. The department responded in a tabulated form, and the researcher's analysis is on page 24 at the very bottom. In the researcher's analysis, the researcher stated that the department indicated in its response that it had a total of 27 audit action plans to implement. Of the 27, 21, which is 77%, had been fully implemented, and 5, which is 19%, was still in progress, and 1, which is 4%, had not been implemented as yet. The resolution has been adequately responded to by the department, and the research recommendation is that it is recommended that the resolution remain open until all action plans have been fully implemented. And that would be the last resolution relating to roads and transport, Chair.
Thank you very much, Lerato. Any comments from members?
None, thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Okay. I think we have come to obviously we'll make follow-up with the resolutions that are not opened and the information that has not been submitted, the annexures, and that follow-up will be made. I think we have come to the end of those presentations. The rest of the presentations are deferred to our next meeting. That is the Agriculture, Rural Development, Sports Recreation, Arts and Culture, Human Settlement, Housing Fund, and Partnership Fund. Let me find out, is there any matter that has to do with APEC, SCOPA, Simon?
Thank you, Chair.
There are 2 issues related to APEC. I think the first one is to inform members that the annual general meeting has been postponed up until further notice. You did highlight the matter during your opening remarks. Then the second matter is the APEC training on material irregularities. The training is scheduled to take place on Monday, the 13th September from 9 o'clock till 2 o'clock. I have since sent through the calendar invite to members, so we are just awaiting their acceptance of the invite. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I think that was for noting. Any other correspondence?
No, there's none, Chair.
Okay. Date of the next meeting. Our next meeting is when? Is it on the 17th or when is it? Simon or Mompati, when is our next meeting? But is it next week? Yes.
It's on the 17th, Chair, which is next week.
Thank you very much. So, honorable members, thank you for staying long. And I think that I'll follow up with the members that I suspect were not here. I will keep on raising this matter like we've always raised it before. But thank you very much for your participation and the patience until now. The meeting is adjourned until the 17th. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you, Chair. Bye.
Thank you, Chair.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Chair.
Yay. I got off only, so I was just letting you know that I'm still busy. Yes. Ano to di krayang yo yo. Yeah, at least sitting. At least sitting.
Oh, I was cut off. Now I'm sure I'm audible. I couldn't unmute earlier on. Thanks.